A stat window floated in the sky, listing the being before him as a goddess named Aphrodite, with numbers far beyond anything human. Souta blinked at his surroundings, unable to process where he had ended up. Endless clouds stretched in every direction, and the ground beneath his feet felt soft and unstable. A woman stood before him, golden hair catching the light, her eyes a clear shade of blue. Her clothing looked elaborate, almost theatrical. The woman crossed her arms, annoyed that he wasn't paying attention. She repeated herself, telling him plainly that he was standing in heaven. She explained that based on the results of a test, he had been chosen to be sent to another world. She introduced herself properly this time. She was Aphrodite, goddess of beauty, and she would serve as his guide to the world he was about to enter. Souta admitted he didn't understand any of it, still trying to process her words. She told him it would be easier to simply show him and instructed him to think the words open status. He followed her instructions, thinking the phrase despite not fully grasping what it meant. A dark panel materialized in front of him. The panel displayed his new identity, Kazuhaya Souta, job monster tamer, level 1, with modest stats and a skill called Capsule Ball. Aphrodite read the job title aloud and mocked it immediately, asking if his mission was something as pathetic as capturing a slime. She explained that in the world of Itelhide, every person carried a duty suited to their talents and as had already been decided. She continued tearing into his profession, calling it useless and comparing him to someone who did nothing but stay home playing games. She mocked him further, remarking that despite her beautiful appearance, her personality was far from pleasant. Souta corrected her, pointing out that she'd overlooked his uniform. He wasn't unemployed. He was still a high school student standing before the goddess with the truth confirmed around him. He accepted there was no denying his situation. He examined the skill listed on his panel, a capsule ball, uncertain of its purpose. Asking about it triggered a detailed explanation. The skill could capture monsters at set odds. Aphrodite mentioned that focusing his thoughts could reveal further explanations from the status screen. Curious, Souta held up the capsule ball and called out for it to activate, ready to see what it could summon. Aphrodite explained the mechanics further, telling him that hitting a monster with the capsule ball gave him a set chance to tame it, since that was the most basic ability of a monster tamer. Souta asked if he could test something before heading off. She agreed, though confused about what he meant, and told him he'd need to go soon regardless. Without warning, he hurled the capsule ball straight at her. She shouted at him, furious, insisting the capsule was meant for taming monsters and that throwing it at her would do absolutely nothing. The ball made contact anyway, and light erupted around them both. Souta stared down at the capsule in his hand, stunned. Inside it, Aphrodite now sat shrunken down to the size of an eraser. She banged against the capsule walls, begging to be released, desperate for freedom. Souta held the ball up, teasing that he still had things he needed her to do first. The situation had turned strange and difficult to explain, but somehow it had happened all the same. Souta raised his fist in triumph, staring at the capsule in his palm. He had actually captured a goddess, an outcome nobody could have predicted from where the day started. Souta stood among the clouds, holding a strange ball in his hand. He had been summoned to heaven without warning and turned into a monster tamer. Unsure what to do next, he only knew one thing for certain. He had somehow captured a goddess. The sky above him glowed an unnatural blue. Strange flowers bloomed nearby, and the mountains stretched out ahead. Everything told him this was no longer his world. He accepted it. He really had been summoned to another world. A cross-shaped grave marker caught his eye near the trees. Deciding not to dwell on it, he chose a path through the forest, reasoning it would eventually lead him to a city. A creature blocked his way, muscular and marked with skull ornaments. He froze, recognizing it as a goblin, and wondered whether he should fight. His status window appeared, showing his class as Monster Tamer Level 1, with a skill called Absolute Domination and an item called Capsule Ball. He judged the goblin would make a good test of his new power. Inside the ball, the goddess he had captured sat curled up, murmuring that nothing mattered anymore. Souta realized he could summon her the same way he checked his status. He wondered how to release her from the ball. Light burst out, and the goddess appeared before him, falling through the air. He greeted her awkwardly. She landed and confirmed she had gotten out, then immediately grew defensive, telling him to wait. Startled, she lashed out at him. He apologized quickly, insisting he meant no offense. The goblin approached again. Souta warned her to keep quiet, worried about attracting more monsters. She reassured him she was a goddess and more than capable, and he began to wonder if Aphrodite was actually powerful. He pointed to the goblin and asked her to drive it off. She agreed, calling it a pitiful lamb about to be judged. She summoned God's blessing, and Souta watched, certain something amazing was about to happen. Her attack shot toward the goblin with visible force, but the goblin remained untouched, and she stared in shock, insisting it was weird. The goblin advanced instead, unfazed by her divine attack. It grabbed her, and she cried out for Souta to help her. The goblin tugged at her clothes as she struggled on the ground, leaving Souta to conclude that this goddess was not reliable at all. With nothing left to lose, Souta charged at the goblin himself, deciding a monster tamer shouldn't lose to something this weak. His kick landed clean, knocking the goblin out cold, and he won the fight without using any skills at all. Afro sat on the floor looking discouraged, following her divine strength unexpectedly weakened. Souta observed her somber expression and tried to lift her spirits while observing the strange change. Noticing an awkward moniker, the goddess immediately protested and clarified him with visible irritation. After settling down, she indicated a briefer name and explained that it sounded far better to her. Elsewhere, Dei disclosed that divine beings could display their true power just in heaven. Dei explained that her mightiest divine assault could reduce existence to ashes. Soon after, she asked Souta to check her status, wishing to understand why her abilities had altered. Dei formed an idea that Sota's divine protection was connected to the issue. She described divine protections as inborn gifts, unlike skills that were earned through effort and practice. Finally, the status details disclosed absolute domination, a rare divine protection capable of ruling over existence when its conditions were met. After examining the status display, Dei asked Souta whether he had noticed a hidden detail inside his divine protection. She stated that it violated the lengthy standing rule limiting monster tamers to basic monsters. A shocking possibility appeared as Souta realized the power might even allow him to dominate people and gods. He finished that such abilities seemed more like a flaw in the realm's system than a normal blessing. Abruptly, Dei spotted additional unusual record on his status. Souta checked his status and searched for the reason of his abrupt rise in level. With certainty, Dei stated that seizing a goddess had granted him an enormous amount of experience. Soon afterward, she disclosed that his increased strength could assist them return home earlier than expected. The goddess then explained his actual duty as the called hero destined to defeat the demon lord. Noticing this, Souta was shocked because nobody had ever told him about that mission prior. They stated that heroes from Homeworld had been sent to this realm for generations to face the demon lord's return. Souta asked whether his monster tamer powers would vanish after returning lodging. According to Dei, letting him to take captured creatures rear to earth. After thinking it over, Souta finally chose on a goal for his period in this realm. Rather of focusing on the demon lord, he ready to reveal a personal plan he wanted to follow first. Souta finally disclosed his true ambition, using absolute domination to bring beautiful girls from this realm rear to earth. Instead than saving the realm immediately, he intended to build his ideal harem before facing the demon lord. Dei responded with surprise and firmly disapproved of his selfish reasoning. Souta then insisted that helping him was also in Dei's benefit, from her return depended on the demon lord's defeat. Unwillingly agreed to help with his unusual plan despite her protests. Thus, Souta and the goddess started their unusual harem, building adventure jointly. Souta and his companion crossed the fields after gaining valuable experience from latest battles. He observed most attributes stayed low despite his level increasing gradually. A new assessment skill emerged unexpectedly, but nearby movement rapidly drew his attention elsewhere. Using the skill, he checked an incoming goblin and learned its level and abilities immediately. Seeing the monster's low level, Souta quietly judged the danger and readied for another easy encounter. Curious about the payment difference, Souta chose to capture the goblin rather of defeating it. An hour elapsed as he continued employing the capsule ball across the region. By the finish of the search, 18 goblins had been successfully gathered. Although the capture total increased quickly, his level remained unchanged, indicating his growth was already unusually high. Examining the capsule's interior, Souta discovered a huge space where the goblins moved openly under his guard. Souta asked about the maximum of monsters he could command and discovered it increased with his level. After calculating the quantity, he recognized he could presently command up to 56 monsters. That finding made him believe his abilities were already far above normal standards. Considering his strength and level, Souta finished the creatures in the region posed minor danger. A fresh worry soon emerged as he wondered whether the goblins he captured would actually obey his orders. Dei stated that monsters beneath a tamer's contract would always follow commands without defiance. Noticing that, Souta recognized the rule might also affect to the goddess standing beside him. A mischievous idea traveled his mind, creating Dei to grow uneasy before anything even occurred. Instead than moving immediately, he decided to test the result through a harmless experiment. The surprising demand caught DEI off guard, leaving her confused as Souta paused for the result. Kamen took result immediately, creating DEI to act before she fully understood what was happening. Embarrassment rapidly overtook her confusion, and she angrily approached Souta over the unexpected test. DE unwillingly accepted the regret and regarded the incident as a harmless experiment. Despite that, suspicion stayed as she questioned whether his intentions had really been innocent, leaving Souta startled by how minor functional knowledge the goddess actually possessed. Dee firmly refused the idea, making it clear she never planned to become part of Sota's coming harem. After reflecting on his conduct, Souta accepted his mistake and regarded Dee as a reliable friend rather. During their journey towards a city, Souta observed the divine being beside him seemed lost in thought. Abruptly, she considered staying within the monster Tamer's capsule rather of walking. She recognized the capsule reduced the strain caused by her curse and offered better comfort. Further discussion verified the hex restricted divine beings from displaying their true power on the ground. Happy with the discovery, she chose the capsule as her spot to relax while their trip continued. Although startled by her decision, Souta agreed that Dee preferred staying within the capsule during the journey. Later, she slept peacefully while a growing party of goblins gathered nearby her. Dee discovered Souta had raised the figure of goblins to 37, leaving her amazed. Elsewhere, Souta gestured ahead and drew her attention towards their destination. At last, the pair arrived at a bustling city, marking the end of their long trip and the beginning of a new phase. After stepping St. Bell Trade City, Souta discovered he could read the native tongue. While exploring the streets, he observed goblins and orcs performing work rather of causing trouble. Our rock turtle drawn a cart across the city, revealing how monsters supported daily life. Interested about the unknown scene, Souta asked DEI for an explanation. To his surprise, she confessed this was also her first stop to the ground and knew little about the city herself. While walking across the city, Souta began wondering whether DE's abilities were really helpful on the surface. The outcome disclosed enormous health, but most of her information remained hidden behind an unknown skill. The skill concealed details from rest and stopped them from being seen normally. Excited by the discovery, Souta pictured how her divine abilities could enhance their coming travels. Embarrassment rapidly spread across DEI's face as his excitement left her unsure how to answer. DEI confessed that one result of her curse blocked away most of her abilities. Still so, Souta accepted the situation and understood why divine beings could not openly use their power in this realm. Noticing his response, DEI grew nervous and worried that he might abandon her. Relief rapidly trailed when Souta comforted her, leading DE to cling to him while expressing her gratitude. After settling down, Souta decided their next priority was seeking work, gaining funds. Reaching the Adventurers Guild, Souta readied to start gaining a living.
Souta arrived at the Adventurer Guild and checked the crowded job board. Unusual outfits drew attention as he stood beside DE, whose celestial clothing contrasted with his school uniform. Meanwhile, curious gazes followed DE throughout the hall, making her beauty the center of attention. Elsewhere, a cat girl named Chloe Grace appeared at the reception desk and immediately caught Sota's eye. He asked about available work and prepared for his first guild experience with DE nearby. After registering at the counter, Souta received his first guild card and completed the required information. Once the card was issued, Chloe explained its importance and introduced the guild's facilities. Next, she described how adventurers accept quests and earn higher ranks through achievements. According to the guild's rules, only capable members are promoted after proving their abilities. Meanwhile, Souta listened carefully before turning his attention toward the guild board. Following Chloe's instructions, Souta examined the guild board and searched for a suitable beginner quest, including goblin hunting, wolf subjugation, and medicinal grass collection. After reviewing the requirements, he learned that monster parts must be submitted as proof of completion, rather than fighting creatures immediately. Souta decided to look for a safer task that matched his goals. Eventually, he selected the medicinal grass quest and completed the acceptance process at the guild counter. Before leaving the guild, Souta received a beginner support set and useful materials for new adventurers. Later, he and DE headed toward Kasser Forest, planning to gather medicinal grass for their first quest. Along the way, fearing their presence would attract unwanted attention. After traveling deeper into the forest, DEI grew tired from the long walk and requested a rest. Souta took out a mysterious ball, preparing a simple solution for the journey ahead. Using the mysterious ball, Souta summoned a large group of goblins to assist with the quest. He realized the growing goblin army could become a valuable source of support. Carefully, Souta showed them the medicinal grass guide and assigned them to gather the required plants. Following his instructions, the goblins immediately scattered through the forest and began searching, watching them disappear into the distance. Souta hoped his plan would succeed, despite lingering uncertainty. Meanwhile, glowing eyes appeared in the darkness as goblins continued searching.
The goblins assembled a big amount of herb plants, helping Souta collect supplies much faster than expected. He observed the goblins' natural instincts made them surprisingly effective in seeking useful items. Souta ready to return and realized multiple goblins had not come near yet. Abruptly, shuffling noises emerged from the nearby forest, drawing his attention toward the missing monsters. Their fierce appearance disclosed the fact, and Souta rapidly understood that the missing goblins had been eaten. Noticing the wolves responsible for the assault, Souta decided they had to be penalized. As 5 wolves encircled him, he stayed quiet and relied on his numerical advantage. Without uncertainty, he called his goblins and ordered them to attack. Although the wolves possessed better bodily strength, the goblins fought with determination and cleverness. Across coordinated attacks, the goblins overwhelmed their enemies and gradually earned command of the battle. After beating the wolves, Souta cheered the victory beside his goblins and praised their teamwork. He seized one remaining wolf and started thinking about protecting his goblins from coming attacks. Elsewhere, the goddess grumbled about hauling the weighty bag he had given her. Later, Souta stated that goblins could assist against the demon lord, though their appearance might attract attention in the city. Rear home, he reviewed his status and noticed his monster total had increased. After checking his condition, Souta discovered a fresh skill named Monster Merger. Thrilled by the possibility, he chose to try the new ability later that night. Prior leaving, he obtained a payment of 40,000 kal for completing the herb. Gathering quest at the guild, the workers praised his achievement and expressed respect for his outcome. Collecting such a large amount of plants in half a day was far above what most adventurers could accomplish. Noticing the guild receptionist praise his achievement, Souta felt pleased still, though the goblins had done most of the labor. Interest soon struck him, and he asked about the worth of the local currency measured to yen. After learning the reward was worth a considerable amount, he realized he had gained remarkable income in just half a day. As night reached, the duo searched for a spot to rest. They found an aged room and instantly questioned the value of the accommodation. After stepping the room, Souta kept his funds hidden while his monsters stayed close for protection. Elsewhere, the goddess settled within the capsule and rapidly fell asleep. With lodging arranged and his monsters fed, he eventually focused on his next job. Soon afterward, Souta triggered the Monster Merger skill and began trying its results. Souta abruptly observed a strange system screen appear before him, leaving him surprised by the surprising discovery. He found that still a goddess could be used in the monster merging mechanism. Interest briefly took over as he pictured combining a deity with a goblin, though he rapidly reconsidered. Attempting the fusion carried an error message, causing him to select a different ingredient. Realizing his options were limited, he decided to try a goblin-to-goblin combination rather. An effective merging disclosed a goblin elite, showing that combining goblins could unlock a stronger evolution path. Further experimentation revealed the goblin knight persuading Souta to use evolution cautiously. Soon, dozens of goblins were improved, forming a force of goblin elites and goblin knights. Their appearance and equipment altered clearly, reflecting their enhanced status and strength. After confirming no further evolution was potential, Souta assigned them with next day's tasks and ended the day satisfied. Under the moonlit sky, a young lady rushed across the forest, desperately trying to escape. Behind her, multiple chasers closed the distance while she continued fleeing. Despite her exhaustion, terror packed her mind as she recalled how everything had altered after a certain person's disappearance. Elsewhere, the men concerned their mission would fail if she managed to get off. Faced with losing their useful target, they readied their bows and decided to halt her at all costs. Under the moonlit sky, a young lady rushed across the forest, desperately trying to escape. Terror packed her mind as she recalled how everything had altered after a certain person's disappearance. Faced with losing their useful target, they readied their bows and decided to halt her at all costs.
Girl noticed Souta heading away from the route toward Cassier Forest and wondered about his destination. Instead of explaining much, he focused on a place he intended to visit before starting the day's activities. Soon, they arrived at a guild-approved general store known as Silver Shield. According to information he had learned earlier, authorized shops offered lower prices. Upon entering the store, the pair were greeted by the owner, who welcomed them and asked what products they needed. Inside the store, Souta explained that they needed affordable clothes because her current outfit attracted too much attention. Hearing that, the girl became excited since it was her first time choosing clothes for herself. Meanwhile, she happily looked around the equipment section while Souta watched her reaction. Soon the shopkeeper presented several beginner adventurer outfits and shoes suitable for new adventurers. Souta approved the recommendation, and she quickly fell in love with the selected outfit. After seeing the recommended outfit, the goddess immediately rejected it because the design looked far too plain. Instead, her attention shifted toward a flashy and expensive outfit displayed nearby. She argued for the extravagant choice despite the original purpose of the visit. Souta praised her natural beauty and suggested that simpler clothes suited her better. Those unexpected words caught her off guard, leaving her flustered and unable to hide her embarrassment. Still embarrassed by Sota's compliment, the goddess admitted she was not used to receiving praise from others. After finishing their purchases, the pair left the store and prepared to continue their plans. She sought Sota's opinion and felt relieved when he approved her appearance. Both changed into practical adventurer clothing before heading toward Kasser Forest. Soon, they met a group of goblins and organized another day of gathering medicinal grass while carrying out their work. Souta also looked for new goblin companions to strengthen the group. Before long, he used his ability on a nearby goblin and successfully added another monster to his collection. As the search continued, the goddess quickly grew tired and decided to rest on the ground. He reminded her that they had only been working for a short time. She realized they still had not found any medicinal grass despite spending so much time in the forest. While resting in the forest, the goddess suddenly noticed something unusual high among the trees. Moments later, they discovered an injured girl hidden on a branch and rushed to investigate her condition.
Souta observed an unconscious girl stranded above in a tree and rapidly decided she needed help. With no goblin's clothes, he climbed up herself while his companion supported his effort from below. He carefully carried her down and discovered she was badly wounded from a drop. Once she was safely on the floor, he began checking her condition using his assessment skill. Despite her gentle appearance and maid attire, her condition was bad and required immediate handling. The assessment disclosed Carolina was a vampire, despite looking like a youth. An explanation trailed about demons who once worked the Demon King and endangered humanity with their strength. After the Demon Kings overcome, the remaining demons lacked much of their power and went into hiding. A stronger look at her injuries showed that her injuries were serious and her life was in danger. Although restoring her directly was no longer potential, another method still remained. The elf explained that normal monster tamers could never capture a vampire, but the capsule ball possessed a powerful restoring result. Because of Souta's divine blessing, saving Carolina stayed potential despite her severe condition. An unexpected fact emerged as the elf revealed that just Souta could help her now. Looking at the unconscious vampire, he pushed apart his concerns and chose not to leave her. Souta triggered the capsule ball, letting its healing power to take result on Carolina. After seizing Carolina, Souta earned a large amount of experience, advanced up, and successfully added the vampire to his monster list. Although puzzled by the surprising outcome, he examined Carolina within the capsule and wondered how this encounter would affect his journey. Souta glanced over the collected herbs and felt satisfied with the day's outcome. Elsewhere, the goblins assembled medicinal plants at a remarkable pace, leaving large sections of the forest nearly emptied. Identifying the shortage of plants, he decided to end the work and sent the goblins' rear to rest. Abruptly, a spirit emerged and proudly stated credit for helping him reach this point. She offered assistance in hauling the plants, wishing her contribution would finally be acknowledged. Facing a huge heap of plants, Souta realized hauling everything would attract unwanted attention despite his monsters. Elsewhere, the goddess grabbed the opportunity and pushed for recognition, wishing her help would finally be rewarded. Instead than arguing, he remembered his absolute domination skill and pondered a different solution. Experimenting with the capture ball, Souta stored the collected plants within, astonishing the goddess. Excitement rapidly overtook doubt as he discovered the item limit did not affect. Observing Souta's response, the goddess rapidly tried to dismiss her earlier remarks and ease the tension. He accepted the explanation and praised her growth rather than pushing the issue. However, a fresh concern appeared as she wondered whether his increasing strength would force her unnecessary. Overcome with alarm, the goddess held to him and promised greater support in the coming. Later, their quest finished successfully, gaining a payment of 64,000 coal and marking a profitable day. After receiving the quest payment, Souta finished the transaction and pulled admiration from the guild receptionist. Elsewhere, several adventurers identified him as the newcomer who had reached with an unusual companion. Aware of the attention, he decided to depart and search for different labor from the medicinal herbs were exhausted. Along the way, a young girl offered fruit for deal, drawing his interest. Feeling hungry, Souta bought multiple fruit before proceeding home with the goddess beside him. Souta enjoyed the pleasant flavor and appreciated the girl's hard labor. Abruptly, a yell interrupted the peaceful instant and drew his attention. Seconds later, a party led by Bakraja approached while searching for a girl given in a portrait. Identifying the face, Souta recognized the mark was Carolina and understood the situation was becoming serious. A party of slave merchants searched the city for Carolina and questioned anyone who might know her whereabouts. Soon after, the men approached Souta and presented their powerful chief while demanding information. He heard cautiously as the strangers warned him about the consequences of insolence. Elsewhere, the merchants disclosed that Carolina had escaped after being purchased at an auction. After noticing the full account, Souta realized she had fled to escape a life of slavery. As the slave merchants left, they warned Souta that lying about Carolina would take serious consequences. Close residents expressed relief that the party had departed without creating further trouble. After learning Souta was new to city, a native quietly advised him to stay cautious nearby Bakraja. Further details disclosed the man's harsh handling of slaves, explaining why Carolina desperately escaped. Seconds later, the party spotted Carolina selling apples, bringing their search to a surprising end. Across the plaza, Souta identified the young girl the merchants had been searching for prior anyone could react, but Bakraja seized her hand and tried to pull her away under the guise of discipline. Stepping forward, Souta quietly asked the man to depart the terrified child alone. Although he understood the danger, he could not ignore the wrongdoing happening prior him. Furious by the interference, Bakraja changed his attention towards Souta and prepared to assert his authority. Souta stood solid near the girl, declining to overlook the danger surrounding her. Abruptly, Bakraja drew a weapon and roamed against him, causing a direct confrontation. Abruptly, a blade flew towards Souta, putting him in immediate danger while everyone nearby reacted in shock. Elsewhere, the attacker realized something surprising had occurred as the strike failed to reach its target. Sota's monster moved forward and stopped the assault, revealing the power of a monster breeder. Without uncertainty, the furious man started another slash, trying to overpower the small defender. Monster evaded continually while Souta assessed the situation, and the attacker prepared for a bigger assault. Relying his goblins, Souta ordered them forward while close residents hurried away from the conflict. In response, dozens of goblin knights emerged and formed a defensive wall nearby the crowd. Seeing their quantity, the assailants froze as the battlefield abruptly shifted in Sota's favor. Armed with assembled weapons, the goblins charged ahead and rapidly overwhelmed the enemy party. Desperate to regain command, the leader seized a young girl and endangered her life to halt Souta. Souta agreed to listen, but prior complying, he threw a strange ball toward the captive taker. Seconds later, vivid glow burst from the object and forced the man to release the frightened girl. As confusion spread, Souta quietly triggered the item's unique ability and targeted his opponent. Without notice, the man was drawn within the ball and trapped despite his resistance. After the danger disappeared, the townspeople remained safe, leaving Souta startled by the surprising outcome, relieved after the danger elapsed. The rescued girl praised Souta and arrived out to him with a bright smile. He considered on the frightening power of his unique ability and its possible consequences. Soon afterward, a familiar call named out and pulled his attention across the street. Uncertainty emerged on the princess's face as she struggled to express her feelings. Gathering her bravery, she finally admitted that Souta had looked somewhat remarkable during the incident. Startled by the princess's praise, Souta stood speechless as their relationship became somewhat closer. Later, she walked ahead confidently while he trailed, and jointly they searched for lodging prior nightfall. After a lucrative day tracking goblins, Souta rented a better room and finally enjoyed a proper tub. While checking his capture record, he checked the monsters acquired that day. Shortly, his notice moved to Carolina Burton. Her injuries had healed, yet she remained unconscious in cot. Souta moved closer and examined her condition. A small movement followed as she slowly turned onto her edge. Vague memories emerged, showing signs that her awareness was slowly returning. As Carolina slowly woke up, she confused Souta for somebody from her memories and glanced at him in confusion. Recognizing her mistake, she rapidly sat up and said, "Sorry for the misunderstanding," after learning she was remaining at the St. Bell Inn. Carolina recalled being rescued from the forest and sincerely praised him. Introductions trailed, and the two eventually shared their names. Carolina asked whether she could settle the favor Souta had given her. She disclosed that she had been carried to the realm as a slave. Collecting her bravery, she asked to remain by Souta's edge and assist with daily tasks. Above household work, Carolina promised to help earn funds and support his coming expeditions with her combat abilities. Checking her condition, Souta verified that her powers were remarkably strong for her level. After some thought, he agreed her demand, believing she would be secure with him than alone. Carolina happily agreed Souta as her mentor and started addressing him that way. Without uncertainty, she pledged to obey any demand he made and dedicate herself to serving him. Noticing such devotion, Souta struggled to procedure her remarks and became visibly flustered. Moving closer, Carolina repeated her promise with complete sincerity and vowed to do her utmost for him. Although tempted by the situation, Souta realized her devotion might create problems if he lost command of the instant. While discussing Carolina's coming, Souta was interrupted when a lady appeared from the bath and entered the room. Surprise rapidly grew as Carolina realized the surprising visitor had awakened. Seconds later, shock changed into alarm when Carolina identified the woman as a divine being standing before a demon. After questioning the mysterious lady's identity, Souta learned that Dee identified a divine appearance hidden behind her appearance. Elsewhere, Dee stated that gods and demons remained as opposing forces. Shock grew across the room as Carolina realized a famous Olympian goddess had emerged prior to them. Regrettably, the circumstance grew complicated. Souta had previously formed agreements with dual a god and a demon. While Carolina listened cautiously, Souta ready to explain their true circumstances and coming plans. Carolina consented to support Sota's mission, while Dee pledged to assist with everything she could. Afterward, a simple demand led to a calmer atmosphere, and Carolina left to freshen up prior proceeding the discussion. While changing, she considered on Sota's unusual power to obtain divine allies. Abruptly, a thought connected Souta to the great demon lord, leaving Carolina shocked. From their first meeting, signs of that legendary ruler had seemed to encircle him. As Carolina remembered her history, memories of serving the great demon lord returned slowly. A daring decision formed in her mind. Souta appeared to hold the same presence and spirit as her former mentor. While resting in the tub, she remembered a prophecy stating the demon lord would one day return. According to that forecast, Souta would ultimately unlock forgotten powers. Excitement overwhelmed her feelings as the possibility seemed increasingly actual. Souta realized his rising party of companions required more funds to support. With that goal in mind, he went towards the Adventurers Guild to search for suitable labor. At the same period, worry about fleeing low on funds pushed him to check the latest quests. Within the guild, multiple missions caught his attention. The board sold duties involving medicinal mushrooms, amoeba slugs, and glow mush monsters. After checking the details, he observed each target could be found in the Zumeria swamp. That finding made preparing much simpler. Noticing that all the quests shared the same destination, Souta decided to complete them jointly and readied for his next expedition. 2 hours later, Souta reached at the Zumeria swamp and started seeking the area for quest targets. After confirming nobody was close, he took out the monster ball and readied to free his companions. Seconds later, the girls emerged from the ball and cheerfully enjoyed their freedom. Their excitement rapidly finished when a mushroom monster was spotted close. The creature changed out to be a glow mush, one of the monsters shown in the guild quest. Souta reviewed its powers and assessed it to be manageable. She hoped to subdue the monster without slaying it and stepped forward to start the battle. Determined to prove herself, Carolina hurried towards the glow mush and launched the first attack before the monster could react. Rather than withdrawing, the creature emitted a cloud of spores. Souta instantly recognized the fight was more dangerous than expected. Without uncertainty, Carolina responded by releasing powerful wind spell. A spinning blast spread across the area and overwhelmed the area. As the storm intensified, the spores were blown off prior they could hit their targets. The glow mush was left uncovered and unable to respond. Using advantage of the chance, Carolina jumped forward with confidence. Elsewhere, the puzzled monster struggled to understand what had just occurred. Carolina narrowed the distance and struck the glow mush with a precise kick, causing the monster onto the defensive instead than completing it off. She cautiously controlled her strength and knocked the creature down without causing serious harm. Satisfied with the result, Souta praised her performance and identified that she could manage coming battles on her own. With the first quest target subdued, the party readied to continue deeper into the swamp and complete the remaining missions. Using the same method that worked on medicinal plants, he readied everybody for the task ahead to enhance efficiency. He commanded the goblins to help with the harvest while participating in monster subjugation at the same time soon. A big figure of captured monsters emerged. The scene stunned his companions, who had never seen such a massive gathering before. Just then did Souta learn that even capable monster breeders usually command no more than 3 monsters, making his achievement highly unusual. Elsewhere, the goddess proudly noted that Sota's victory was possible because of the special support and advantages he had obtained. Souta divided the party into smaller teams and assigned each person a duty. Uncertainty spread among his companions as they observed him arrange the operation. Multiple goblins and a wolf were placed beneath Di and Carol's order. Their job was simple: protect the team while collecting supplies. After a brief period, a goblin returned hauling medicinal mushrooms. Happy with the outcome, Souta readied for the next step of his plan. Using a captured slave trader stored within a unique item, he summoned the man into the area. A glow mush emerged prior the trader. Seconds later, it emitted numbing spores and jumped forward, beginning Souta's experiment. The glow mush emitted its numbing spores, immediately paralyzing the slave trader. Observing the outcome, Souta realized the monster's ability was far tougher than expected. After checking the skill details, he discovered the particles could affect targets from a brief distance. With the offender unable to act, Souta pondered what to do next. Keeping him imprisoned was potential, but storage area within the capture ball was limited. Additional inspection disclosed a disturbing skill requirement connected to multiple mortal deaths. Still, while entirely helpless, the slave trader showed no remorse. His frantic behavior just strengthened Souta's resolve to deal with him permanently. Souta declined to free the slave trader, yet he also selected not to kill him. Rather, he looked for another answer that would prevent further harm. After some thought, he decided to reincarnate the offender across monster merging. The man heard in uncertainty, powerless to understand the plan, selecting the seized slave trader as a merging component. He began the combination process. Vivid glow surrounded the man's form as the transformation started. Fear rapidly overtook his defiance while the fusion took result. Seconds afterward, a werewolf appeared from the glow. Startled by the effective outcome, Souta examined the newly created monster and its abilities. The merging was a victory, and a werewolf emerged before Souta. Impressed by the outcome, he identified the creature as a powerful new addition to his gathering. After trying its conduct, Souta verified the werewolf obeyed his commands. With its strength and devotion proven, the monster rapidly became his most dependable warrior. A huge heap of glow mushrooms packed the clearing after the harvesting work was completed. To Souta's surprise, the goblins cooperated perfectly and assembled far more supplies than anticipated. Shortly afterward, his companions reached with proof that the mushroom extermination quest had been completed. While checking the rewards, he realized the amount of gathered supplies was too large to hold home normally. Employing a capsule ball, Souta kept the mushrooms with reduce. Amazement grew across the party as the harvest disappeared instantly, leaving the area clear once again. Seconds after the harvest ended, DE abruptly vanished, leaving Souta and the others puzzled. Far off, an enormous amoeba slug emerged and captured DE with its sticky form. Seeing her confined, Souta rapidly evaluated the monster and realized it was stronger than any creature he had faced before. Without uncertainty, he tossed a capsule ball at the huge slug in an attempt to rescue her. Surprisingly, the capture attempt was unsuccessful. Just then did Souta notice the ball had simply grazed the monster instead of striking it directly. After observing the range was too great, Souta came up with a fresh plan to save DE from the monster. Elsewhere, Carolina confidently readied her assault and coordinated with Souta to create an opening. As the battle continued, DI abruptly reacted strangely while the amoeba slug tightened its hold nearby her form. Soon, the creature began removing her clothing, leaving everyone stunned by its surprising behavior. Instead than showing concern, Souta focused on the monster itself and vowed to make it pay for attacking his companion. After the failed save attempt, Carolina observed Souta's response and began suspecting what was on his mind. Without notice, she walked towards the amoeba slug while DE remained confined in its grasp. Seconds afterward, Carolina allowed herself to be took as well. Shock spread across the area as dual girls ended up in the monster's hold, leaving Souta completely shocked. Souta recognized Carolina had also been seized, making the situation far more serious than prior. Close, the strange monster roamed openly while he searched for a way to help. Elsewhere, Carolina was restrained by the creature's tentacles as it checked her with unusual interest. Took off guard, she struggled while the monster swiftly cleared pieces of her clothing. From a range, Souta identified the creature's pattern and understood what it was doing. Soon after, another captive was dragged into the same predicament, leaving dual girls trapped as the bizarre monster continued its choices. Bound by numerous tentacles, the two girls struggled helplessly and desperately paused for save as the monster kept them restrained. Their pleas eventually pulled Souta out of his trance. Recognizing the risk could become far worse, he focused on saving them instantly. Watching the creature cautiously, he observed every tentacle was occupied controlling its captives, and chance had eventually emerged. Without uncertainty, Souta tossed a capture sphere towards the distracted monster, aiming to end the situation before it could react. Seconds afterward, the attempt worked. The creature was identified as an amoeba slug, a weak aquatic monster, and Souta properly included it to his gathering. Freed from the monster's grasp, the two girls collapsed in relief and celebrated their survival while praising Souta's swift choices. After returning to city, The party reported their victory and officially completed the expedition without further incidents. Besides completing the mission, Souta checked the monsters he had captured, covering several light mushrooms and the newly acquired amoeba slug. Later feelings of Chloe's praise remained in his mind as he walked across the city, reflecting on the day's achievements. Soon afterward, the guild delivered the expedition payment, granting the group a reward of 76,000 kal for their efforts. Rear at the guild, Chloe praised Souta for another successful mission and praised the remarkable results he had achieved. While checking the gathered supplies, she admitted that no adventurer she had seen before could gather resources so efficiently. Noticing her constant encouragement, Souta started paying closer attention to her kindness and supportive behavior. Supported by those feelings, he gathered his bravery and invited Chloe to have dinner with him that evening. Rather than reacting with concern or surprise, she responded quietly, leaving Souta confused as he struggled to understand relationships despite his growing victory as an adventurer. After leaving the guild, Souta chose to spend part of his payment on purchases. Obeying carefully behind, Carolina and another companion joined him as they headed into city. Remembering that Carolina had few private belongings, he offered to assist her purchase anything she might need for daily safety. Grateful for the opportunity, she explained that her present attire made movement difficult and hoped to find anything lighter. An instant later, Carolina shyly added that she also required new underwear, making Souta realize the trip required careful preparing. Prior long, another girl expressed benefit in shopping as well, turning the simple errand into a party outing. The party reached at a licensed guild store to start their shopping trip and search for the items they needed. After stepping the shop, Souta led the two girls within while considering the requests they had mentioned earlier. Soon afterward, they arrived at the lingerie section, where Carolina and her companion started checking different choices as the shopping trip continued. After learning that Athelhide had underclothes comparable to those on Earth, Souta grew interested in the idea. At the store, two girls began looking across the available styles. Their attention rapidly rested on different styles that suited their personal tastes. While one preferred cute and colorful designs, the other favored stylish and more daring styles. Multiple choices were carried forward for comparison. Faced with the final options, Souta cautiously examined dual sets. Neither selection appeared obviously better to him. As the assessment continued, the little party remained focused on deciding which design would be the better choice. Powerless to stay with them, he was rapidly sent off and left to wander on his own. While looking nearby the city, his attention moved to a goblin knight's weapon. The easy wooden club seemed weak, yet he wondered if it could become helpful in fight. Interest led him into a store where he asked whether there was a weapon that even a beginner could manage comfortably. Rather of recommending the displayed object, the shopkeeper hesitated and explained that anything about it felt unusual. According to the merchant, the shop was not meant for weapons, and the club had just remained there because no scout had found a better spot for it. After leaving the weapon store, Souta discovered that another shop in St. Bell offered free maintenance services. Simply then, the girls completed their purchases and reunited with him. Attention soon moved to Carol, who emerged in a new ranger attire with sturdy leather boots. Noticing her response, Souta assured her that the purchase was valuable. Her hard labor made the payment feel entirely justified. While checking the attire, he observed several details that matched Carolina perfectly. The style combined practicality with ease for adventuring. Seconds later, Athelhide measured the costs and realized Carol's equipment had cost far more than her own purchase, leaving her visibly frustrated. Although Athelhide grumbled about the price difference, Souta pledged to buy her anything another time. With their purchases nearly completed, Souta decided to stop one last place before returning home. The party headed towards a weapon store that had been recommended earlier. As they approached the location, Athelhide hesitated and indicated avoiding the stop. Her response made the rest curious about the cause. Shortly, an aged building labeled as a weapons store came into view. Its worn look made it look very other from the stores they had visited prior. Unfortunately, the store was closed, preventing the party from stepping and learning more about it. As the party stood prior the closed weapon store, a young gnome girl stepped outside. The vivid sunlight appeared unknown to her. Surprisingly, the child presented herself before the visitors. Her appearance and certainty rapidly took everyone's attention. Instead than being a customer, she disclosed an unexpected connection to the shop. Souta and the rest struggled to accept what they were noticing. Soon, the puzzle was solved when the girl identified herself as Seal Altered, the keeper of the weapons store. The surprising revelation left the party shocked. An elf girl was surprised when two striking girls reached in the village, drawing everyone's attention. Their look departed a strong impression, and the villagers softly admired their extraordinary beauty. Elsewhere, Souta returned with the girls, just to be stopped before he could continue on his way. Soon after, one of the girls named out to him and disclosed that she had already made a decision. Ignoring Sota's earlier plan, she keenly led him towards a nearby weapons shop, determined to start her own adventure preparations. Within the weapons shop, the elf girl welcomed the party kindly. While admiring her certainty, one of the girls assumed the store owner must also possess excellent blacksmithing skills. Rows of weapons packed the room, forming a far superior selection than ordinary stores. Although the outside glanced untidy, the interior was carefully arranged and easy to browse. Faced with countless choices, Souta fought to decide which weapon would suit the party best. Observing his uncertainty, the elf girl moved forward and offered guidance for beginners unfamiliar with weapons. After noticing her suggestion, Souta explained that the weapon was not planned for him, leaving the elf girl startled and curious. Thinking cautiously, the elf store owner indicated choosing a weapon for the Goblin Knight. She stated that very few people purchase weapons for monsters, so stores rarely readied equipment for such unusual customers. Remembering his adventures, Souta recognized she was right. Among all the monsters he had encountered, Goblin Knights were the just ones able of correctly wielding weapons. Interested in the thought, he asked to see the cheapest starter weapons available prior making a decision. One by one, the Goblin Knight tried multiple metal weapons and a shield. Watching the outcome, Souta became impressed by how naturally the monster managed every choice. After noticing the Goblin Knight armed with different weapons, Souta was impressed by the outcome. The monster's glance far more capable, and he began imagining a coming force of heavily armed Goblin Knights. Content with the costs, he purchased one of each weapon and multiple shields. The storekeeper happily readied the order without delay. Prior leaving, she handed him a customer pass and explained the store's maintenance support. Their business finished smoothly, and dual sides expressed gratitude for the effective transaction. Stepping beyond the store, Souta took a deep breath as the quiet city stretched before him. Marking the end of another productive day following an effective day, Souta returned to relax. Although his level stayed unchanged, he discovered that he had earned a new skill named Contact. Cautiously reviewing the skill details, he learned that it allowed communication with tamed monsters inside a limited range, making it highly useful for coming adventures. Thrilled by the discovery, Souta readied to try the skill immediately, hoping to strengthen coordination with his monster companions. Souta chose to try a newly acquired Mind. Link's skill facing the two girls, he silently sent a notice into their minds and paused for a response. One girl seemed deeply impressed while the other verified that Sota's feelings were reaching her, clearly supported by the outcome. He asked for assist practicing the ability. Excitement packed the room as the elf happily agreed the duty. After considering the demand, the girls consented to support his practice. Their support gave him a superior grasp of the skill. An insight shortly hit him. Mind, Link showed far more helpful than expected, leaving Souta pleased with the successful test. While trying the Mind, Link's skill further, Souta realized communication just worked when messages passed through him. Content with the experiment, he praised the girls for their assist. The outcome verified that the skill could still be helpful in many situations. With the trying completed, daily safety resumed. One companion went for a shower, while Souta intended to take care of some washing. Prior leaving, he checked the monsters he owned and considered potential combinations. New merging choices rapidly caught his attention. Among the outcome, an odd plant-type monster emerged. Curious about its unusual abilities, Souta started checking its information more carefully. After reading the monster's unusual powers, Souta chose they required proper verification. He readied to try whether the details was accurate. Using his breeding skill, he finished the merging and summoned a new creature named Mad Mush. The monster glanced familiar, though its appearance had altered somewhat. Instead than hurrying ahead, he cautiously observed the creature. The changed mushroom hat was the just obvious difference from its earlier form. While checking the shown abilities, a worrying possibility crossed his mind. Trying the power personally on his companions appeared far too risky. By merging Mind Link with the monster's ability, Souta realized accidents could be created without anyone tracing the means. While thinking about the monster's unique ability, Souta observed a woman stepping the room. Moving on impulse, he commanded Mad Mush to use its strength. The creature emitted spores, and the result rapidly spread across the room. An instant later, confusion emerged on the lady's face. Souta recognized the spores had arrived a much wider region than he had expected. Prior he could react, she roamed stronger under the influence of the ability. The surprising reply left him entirely unprepared. As the result intensified, she fought to command herself. Observing the outcome unfold, Souta understood that the skill was far more dangerous than he had pictured. Defeated by a strange influence, Souta and DEI struggled to command their emotions as they faced each other in quiet. Under the result of Mad Mush's chaotic powder, the surprising situation grew more intense while neither could calm their racing feelings. Seeing Dee's appearance at near range, his focus slipped off, and Cause slowly gave way to temptation. Drawn stronger by instinct, she leaned over him while he stayed frozen, uncertain how to react. With her feelings using command, DEI roamed nearer and asked for patience, leaving the moment hanging on the edge of change. A bucket of cold water hurried across the room as a figure rushed toward the cot without hesitation. Seconds afterward, the water drenched Souta and Dee, abruptly breaking the heated atmosphere that had confined them. Shock overtook uncertainty as Duel realized their compromising position. Embarrassment grew immediately, and DE rapidly tried to distance herself. Without another word, the novice changed and headed for the door, leaving a nervous silence behind. Anger then emerged as she issued a fierce warning, making it clear that anyone who endangered her mentor would face serious consequences. Gradually regaining her composure, Carolina confessed that she was struggling to keep her emotions beneath command after the earlier incident. Elsewhere, Souta observed fragments of her feelings through their contract skill, revealing feelings she usually kept hidden. As the situation rested, Carolina explained that cold water had halted the mushroom's influence and shared what she knew about its results. Collecting her bravery, she asked him to consult her first whenever he needed to test a skill in the coming. Finally, Carolina expressed her determination to stay by his edge, declining to run off no matter how difficult or embarrassing things became. Caro's response left Souta puzzled, and he realized their connection disclosed more of her feelings than he expected. Later that evening, the thought remained in his mind. Unable to find a reply, he lay awake, bothered by her grin and the events of the day. A recently listed emergency quest offered 3 million coals for beating a cockatrice in Kashru's forest. After learning the demand had just been added, Souta decided to collect more information prior taking action. Chloe explained that the cockatrice was a dangerous predator that assaulted enemies with scorching flame. While considering the danger, Souta measured it with stories from his realm and carefully assessed the monster's abilities. Noticing about the huge payment, his companions supported him to accept the quest, but he chose to wait and complete easier missions. First, Souta stated that dangerous missions naturally offered better rewards, though he preferred avoiding unnecessary risks. His careful behavior rapidly annoyed one of his companions, who complained that he always acted too conservatively when facing powerful monsters. Additional discussion disclosed how terrifying the cockatrice really was. Still capable adventurers struggled against it, and its destructive power could endanger an entire village. Prior the conversation could proceed, a familiar call caught their attention from across the street. Close. A terrified girl was being harassed and forcibly dragged away by a suspicious man, prompting concern from the party. Observing the disturbance close, Souta realized a young girl was in problems and decided not to ignore the situation. Prior stepping forward, he instructed his companions to stay rear and keep Carolina safely hidden within her ball. Incoming the situation quietly, Souta asked what was happening. The terrified girl identified him while the angry man cautioned him not to interfere. Instead of backing down, Souta listened as the man claimed he was just collecting a loan and had done nothing false. The facts shortly appeared. The girl's late father had borrowed 3 million cal and vanished, leaving her loaded with a loan she could never settle alone. The loan collector indicated selling the property to recover part of the missing funds, but the girl firmly refused to give up the place left behind by her master. Unable to settle the loan, she unwillingly offered to work as a slave to settle the amount owed. Shock grew across the people as the collector regretted accepting monthly payments and realized he had lost a valuable opportunity. While the dispute escalated, Souta abruptly connected the situation to himself and began suspecting that he was the reason of the entire dispute. After piecing jointly the circumstance, Souta recognized Carol's dismissal had ruined the men's store's profits, leaving Seal to bear the consequences. A worrying decision developed in his mind. His choices had led to Carol's dismissal and still changed Bakuraja into a werewolf. Faced with the outcome of his decisions, he accepted accountability and ready to make amends. With determination replacing hesitation, Souta carried up the loan and asked to manage it himself instead than using him seriously. The others questioned what somebody like him could accomplish, while Seal looked on in surprise. Although 3 million coals was a huge quantity, Souta knew there was just one way to solve the issue. Rather of backing down, he requested 3 days and pledged to gather the funds himself. Doubt rapidly grew among the rest. To prove his earnestness, he offered an advance reward and agreed the risk of losing it if he failed. While Seal concerned about him, Souta quietly took accountability. Still, after noticing his resolve, the man remained unconvinced and expected anything to change. Without wasting period, Souta altered his plans and set off towards Kashura's forest with his companions to find a solution. After reaching Kashura's forest, Souta disclosed his plan to search dragons and earn a large payment. Alarmed by the thought, Seal stated that the cockatrice was a powerful demon whose scales were useful enough to be used in royal armor. Still so, Souta declined to leave the mission. As they continued farther into the forest, interest led Souta to ask why Seal managed the store alone. A sad past appeared. Her mentor, a capable blacksmith and adventurer, had left 2 years earlier to battle a demon tribe and never returned. Noticing the account, Souta eventually understood her situation and offered quiet reassurance. Trying to reduce Seal's worries, Souta confidently stated that he was strong enough to overcome a cockatrice despite his ordinary appearance. Doubt instantly emerged on Seal's face as she struggled to accept his bold declaration. Prior Souta could explain further. The others confessed that he did not look trustworthy at all, making the situation still more awkward. Aphrodite abruptly arrived to his defense, insisting that he possessed the blessing of the goddess of love and beauty and could be depended upon. The surprising praise left Souta embarrassed while Seal observed in confusion as the party continued through the forest. While traveling across the forest, Aphrodite teased the party by praising Seal's hidden beauty and stating she could prove it. Seconds later, Aphrodite disclosed details about Seal that startled everyone, demonstrating her divine eye ability and leaving Seal embarrassed. Souta discovered that Aphrodite possessed the rare divine eyes, a skill held just by divine entities. The revelation instantly took everyone's notice. Soon after, she demonstrated the power by accurately identifying a hidden feature about Seal, leaving the others embarrassed and startled. Interest became as Souta remembered that Aphrodite had supposedly lost access to her skill because of a curse. Elsewhere, the party discovered that the skill not just evaluated abilities but also exposed unusual personal information. A thought developed in his mind and he pondered borrowing the power. Regrettably, Aphrodite attached an embarrassing condition, causing him to reconsider immediately. Frustration overwhelmed Souta as he pictured the problems the divine eyes could reason. The strange power appeared more dangerous than helpful. Later, Carolina accidentally provided another instance of the skill's result. A clear image emerged in Souta's mind, leaving him completely shocked. Embarrassment weakened as the party returned to preparing their exploration. Attention moved towards tracking a useful cockatrice somewhere in the area. While discussing the search, a surprising sound echoed across the forest. Automatically, Souta halted and listened for movement close. Seconds later, the means disclosed itself. Emerging from the trees, a pack of 7 wolves encircled the route and forced the party to prepare for battle. Confronting the pack of wolves, Souta chose against seizing them. Rather, he readied another strategy and arrived for a capsule. A party of goblin knights emerged at his order. Equipped with newly improved weapons and armor, they hurried ahead to confront the enemy. Without uncertainty, the goblins started a coordinated assault. Keen blades and disciplined motions rapidly overwhelmed the wolves inside seconds. The fight ended. Multiple wolves lay defeated on the floor, showing the effectiveness of the goblins' equipment. As the goblin knights finished their task, Souta dismissed them and praised them for their efforts. The remaining wolf disclosed a surprising truth. Carolina stated that her kind required the blood of alive animals to survive. Following noticing the explanation, Souta selected not to interfere. Relief emerged on Carol's face as she obtained permission to do what was essential. Nevertheless, she seemed embarrassed regarding being seen during the procedure. Hesitantly, Carolina requested Souta to look off while she nourished. Recognizing her emotions, he accepted without protest, shifting his rear. Souta considered on how unusual the situation had become. Quiet rested over the forest as Carolina started feeding. Close, the others paused patiently while Souta stood guard and respected her demand. Abruptly, a huge creature descended from the sky, attracting everyone's attention upward. The peaceful instant ended as the party realized a dangerous monster had emerged. Seconds later, the cockatrice disclosed alone and unleashed a fierce cry. Assessing its strength, Souta identified it as a powerful mark and readied for the encounter. A powerful cockatrice abruptly emerged and its overwhelming presence forced everyone to retreat. In alarm, seeing the danger, Souta rapidly ordered his companions to stay within the capsule balls and escape the battlefield. Elsewhere, the goblin knights reached and escorted the frightened party toward a safer location while Souta prepared a plan. Without uncertainty, he tossed an instant capture capsule ball at the fierce monster, relying his special ability to succeed. Regrettably, a strong blast from the cockatrice's wings knocked the capsule ball off, leaving Souta searching for another chance. Confronting the cockatrice alone, Souta paused as the creature approached. Withdraw appeared impossible, yet staying put could price him his life. Abruptly, a giant snake lunged from the edge and wrapped itself nearby the bird, interrupting its attack before it could strike. Only afterward did Souta recognize the cockatrice had overlooked him from the beginning. Its notice had been fixed on the dead wolf clothes, regarding it as prey. Relief spread across the party as the immediate danger passed, and they gathered nearby Souta to check his condition. While tending to his wounded arm, everybody started discussing a new strategy to overcome the powerful monster. After regarding her wound, Souta learned that the vampires could track blood scents from great distances, giving the party a useful clue. Using her ability, Carolina traced the smell from the wolf's form and estimated the cockatrice's location multiple kilometers off. A fresh thought developed in Souta's mind. Knowing the monster's location meant they could prepare a proper plan rather of pursuing it blindly. Grateful for her assist, he praised Carolina for becoming an important ally throughout the dangerous circumstance. Elsewhere, another companion softly listened as Souta considered on how useful Carol's unique talent would be in the battles ahead. Determined to help, Seal insisted on showing her worth to the party. Noticing her excitement, Souta decided to entrust her with an important duty in their plan. Confident in her powers, Seal keenly agreed the assignment. Elsewhere, Souta began preparing a unique demand that could support their next move. With the essential pieces coming jointly, he finalized his strategy and changed his attention toward defeating the cockatrice. 2 hours later, Souta and his party reached at the cockatrice's nest and started preparing their plan to overthrow the monster. A foul odor packed the area as they discovered corpses confined inside the tree, showing how long the cockatrice had lived there. To lure the monster off unnoticed, the party tied the beautiful elf girl to the tree as bait while Souta arranged the mission. Uncertainty rapidly spread when she realized she had become the decoy, while the others reacted to Sota's surprising decision. Despite her uncertainty, Souta explained that just her beauty could attract the cockatrice and force the operation succeed. Souta defended his strategy and maintained that the cockatrice lure mission required somebody exceptional, believing her beauty exceeded that of normal girls. He chose the goddess as the ideal decoy. Silence trailed as the party paused for her response. The goddess listened cautiously while Souta stood solid near the tree. A grin shortly emerged on her face. Accepting the duty, she confidently reminded Souta how often he depended on her assist. Instead than arguing, he laughed and confessed that the mission required a decoy more than anything else. Privately, Souta held an additional motive. Her incredible safety energy made her the safest choice for such a dangerous job. The party teased Souta for shifting the goddess into a scapegoat, but he ignored their comments and focused on the mission ahead. Although he emerged quiet, guilt remained in his mind. Victory would require a payment deserving of the goddess's cooperation. Shortly, Souta assembled his monsters and explained the mission. Facing the risky cockatrice, he requested for their complete support. After checking the air direction, he verified that the conditions were perfect and prepared to start the attack. At his order, Mad Mushi emitted confusion powder towards the nest. Seconds later, the irritated cockatrice reacted and appeared from its hiding spot. With the confusion powder using result, the cockatrice entered a heated state and hurried toward the goddess. Causing herself to follow the strategy, she attempted to charm the cockatrice despite her embarrassment. Each motion was aimed at keeping the beast concentrated on her. Rather of approaching gently, the cockatrice started alone forward at full speed. The abrupt attack took her completely off guard. An uneasy grin faded from her face as the raging monster closed the distance inside seconds. Alarm rapidly overtook her confidence. Bound to the tree, she urgently wished for Souta's save while wondering what his actual plan was. A huge cockatrice cried for assist as Risk approached from behind. Noticing the call, Souta rapidly changed his attention toward the battlefield. Without uncertainty, he ordered the goblin knights to shape levels. Close, the cockatrice readied alone while the small army moved into position. Soon afterward, the goblin knights hurried ahead and struck jointly. Their organized assault forced the cockatrice to react and momentarily halted its motion. Elsewhere, Souta verified that the creature had been restrained. Glow Mush then scattered powder, but the result hardly slowed the powerful monster. Recognizing the front was paralyzed yet risky, Souta commanded the goblins to restrain the cockatrice. With the cockatrice paralyzed, Souta's strategy started to labor. Goblin knights encircled the creature, cutting off each potential escape route. Noticing the chance, Souta signaled Carolina to assault. She jumped forward from above while the goblins kept the monster confined in spot. An influential blow landed personally on the cockatrice. The blow shook its massive form, leaving it unable to battle rear effectively. Silence trailed the assault as everybody watched the result. Still, Souta and his companions seemed startled by how rapidly the battle had turned. Seconds afterward, the monster collapsed entirely. Satisfied with the victory, Souta praised his allies prior the party ready to move on. Rear City, the defeated cockatrice drew attention from everybody nearby. News of Sota's achievement grew rapidly, and many people assembled to see the rare monster. After evaluating the capture, the guild praised Souta with a big reward. At the same period, beating the cockatrice increased dual his level and the strength of his companions instead than using all the credit. Souta recognized the efforts of Carolina and the monsters who fought beside him. Soon afterward, another companion moved ahead and tried to explain anything important. Her abrupt interference caught everybody's attention. As the details were checked, the party began investigating what had attracted the monster in the first spot. After checking the situation, the party recognized the cockatrice had approached because it was preparing to raise its young. Elsewhere, notice moved to DI as the discussion continued. An unusual conclusion appeared, leaving everybody momentarily shocked. In the end, the party accepted the explanation and considered on the latest events. With the puzzle resolved, they readied for whatever challenge expected next. After arriving at the Bacaraja firm, Souta delivered the funds and obtained 3 million call as repayment for Seal's loan. However, the branch manager checked the reward and instantly judged that the amount was far from enough. Puzzled by the response, Souta listened as the manager explained that the loan had grown because of accumulated loan interest. Recognizing the situation, he asked how much more was needed to settle everything entirely. Rather of giving a fair reply, the manager revealed his true motive and demanded that Seal become his slave if the remaining funds could not be prepared. Prior Souta could answer, Seal moved forward and produced another 3 million coal from her own savings. Calmly, she explained that the funds had always been intended for Souta and believed her loan would finally be emptied. With the issue rested, Seal said, "Sorry for the trouble," and prepared to leave alongside him. Abruptly, the manager stopped them and shamelessly altered his position, claiming the total loan had risen to 5 million kal. Noticing the outrageous demand, Souta realized the man never planned to honor the agreement and was just searching for another way to exploit Seal. Seeing the manager refuse each reasonable offer, Souta decided there was no point proceeding the discussion and ready to leave with Seal. Rather of backing down, the manager endangered Seal and tried to force her to remain until more funds could be produced. Moving in front of her, Souta told Seal to stay rear and confidently agreed the challenge. His quiet behavior startled her and unsettled the manager. A monster capsule emerged in Souta's arm as he disclosed that he possessed strength beyond what others expected. Seconds later, a fierce werewolf burst into the room and rushed toward the shocked manager. After beating the manager's defiance, Souta reclaimed the funds and left, ensuring Seal was finally free from exploitation. After returning from a quest, Souta learned that the weapon store had been sold and grew curious about the cause behind it. Noticing the price, he wondered whether giving up the store was really the right choice for its owner. Elsewhere, the elf explained that seeking her missing mentor mattered more than managing the business any longer. Understanding her situation, Souta agreed that searching for the mentor was the better route and listened to her demand. Without uncertainty, she asked to accompany him, wishing the adventure would finally lead her closer to her master's whereabouts. Cecil keenly asked to travel with Souta, giving her blacksmith skills and support for the adventure ahead. Although grateful, Souta told her that their task involved tracking dangerous demons. Repaying her loan was not essential, yet she insisted on coming. After confirming her determination, he reviewed whether she was really ready for the hardships ahead. A solid reply cleared his doubts. Seconds afterward, Souta instructed her to turn nearby. Prior she understood his intention, he triggered a strange action from behind. Abruptly, a strange energy surrounded Seal and transported her elsewhere. Puzzled and surprised, she found herself alone in an unfamiliar spot. After the abrupt transfer, Seal found herself in a strange region where Aphrodite and Carolina were previously waiting. Their appearance just deepened her uncertainty. Seconds later, Sota's voice arrived her mind through a mysterious connection, leaving her stunned and searching for answers. He explained that she was within a capsule area and could communicate with him anytime across a special contact ability. Although puzzled by the arrangement, Seal learned that staying there would force traveling simpler and secure for everyone. Additional information disclosed additional benefits. The capsule could provide relax, prevent appetite, and still restore her condition while Souta continued the journey. After noticing Sota's explanation, Seal finally agreed the arrangement and agreed to remain within the capsule during the journey. Content with the result, Souta proudly celebrated recruiting a talented blacksmith, viewing her addition as a useful gain for the team. A peaceful morning started in the city as the day gradually unfolded. Abruptly, Souta woke up and lacked his balance, crashing onto the floor in uncertainty. Looking nearby, he observed a blonde girl sleeping close. Hunger seemed to be the just matter on her mind, still in her sleep. Elsewhere in the room, two other girls slept comfortably, showing how near they had become to him during their journey. Faced with the surprising scene, Souta could just stare silently as he tried to understand the circumstance. Souta glanced up and found all three girls asleep jointly on the cot. The strange scene left him entirely shocked. Insight rapidly struck him. Although the situation glanced like a dream, he knew he could never stay quiet encircled by so many girls. After collecting himself, he said sorry and carried up a matter he wanted to discuss before they left for the day. The subject caught the girls off guard. Souta gestured out that they had been spending more time beyond rather of sleeping in the ball before. One of them explained that the area within had become too cramped and uncomfortable, so she preferred relaxing elsewhere. Carolina explained that she remained beyond the ball to keep guard over Aphrodite. She concerned that another abrupt incident might happen if the goddess became puzzled again. Elsewhere, Aphrodite rapidly defended herself, insisting the earlier accident had been completely unintentional. As Souta listened, he recognized each girl had a different cause for remaining beyond. Isolation and tedium seemed to be the shared cause. Slowly, a thought developed in his mind. With everybody paying notice, Souta asked what they would like to have within the ball. Without uncertainty, Aphrodite requested a large, fluffy cot, wishing to make the space far more comfortable than before. Carolina indicated adding text to the ball, believing a variety of reading supplies would help everyone stay entertained. Elsewhere, Shield proposed collecting supplies and tools so she could spend time crafting tougher weapons. After listening to each demand, Souta arranged the ideas into a list. Although the items seemed achievable, the price would require a substantial amount of funds. With a goal in mind, he chose to accept a new quest and earn enough funds to enhance life within the ball. After a long practice, Souta obtained a promotion to F rank and was kindly congratulated by the guild receptionist. Uncertainty traveled his face as he learned that explorers normally needed a year to reach the same rank. According to the guild's assessment, his victory in the cockatrice subjugation quest strongly boosted his standing. With the promotion complete, the receptionist informed him that multiple fresh missions had become available. Interest led him to the quest board, where digging missions for various ores promised different rewards and new opportunities for growth. Excitement rapidly packed Souta's mind as he observed the mining quests and calculated the potential rewards from rare ores. Among all the choices, platinum ore stood out the most, giving a far better payout than iron, silver, or gold. Without wasting period, he returned to the respond and chose the digging quest as his next objective. However, the receptionist explained that the job needed a pickaxe and a pocket lantern, dual of which had to be purchased beforehand. The overall price stunned him. Equipping 4 people would require 28,000 coals, causing him to reconsider his plans prior stepping the mine. Although the equipment price weighed on his mind, Souta stayed determined and hoped to collect enough ore to recover the investment. 2 hours later, he reached at the Arl's mine with his companions and surveyed the huge digging site spread across the rocky landscape. Elsewhere, Carolina explained that digging activity had declined as demon attacks increased, creating many workers to leave the area. After noticing the explanation, Souta praised Carol's knowledge and earned a superior understanding of the mine's situation. Abruptly, Shield's joy flashed forth. The familiar scene of the mine reignited her passion, and she keenly readied for the work ahead. Seal's abrupt excitement caught the party off guard, leaving everybody wondering what had sparked such unusual energy. As they continued talking, Souta discovered that gnomes shared a deep connection with earth and stones, making the mine a unique spot for Seal. For her, precious ore meant more than material. The minerals concealed inside the mine were a means of genuine delight and fascination. Realizing how keen she was, the others rapidly understood that her excitement came from personal passion rather than the quest itself. With preparations complete, the group set their goal on collecting valuable ore and began their digging expedition with renewed determination. Upon stepping the cavern, Souta and his companions found the surroundings entirely dark. A sign forward hinted that wealth could be earned with a single strike, remembering the needed object. He took a pocket lantern from his inventory ball and ready to use it. Before he could act, Carolina caused a finger and produced a shining sphere through spell. The vivid glow illuminated the cavern. She explained that the spell, named Flash Glow, could keep the area lit for multiple hours. Amazed by her skill, Souta complimented Carol's utility. Remorse soon trailed as he recognized the lanterns he had purchased were no longer needed. While exploring the cave, Dite named Souta over and disclosed that she had already assembled several pieces of ore from the area. Thrilled by her discovery, she proudly presented a shiny rock and expected it to be anything valuable. After using a closer look, Souta identified it as anything more than an ordinary rock despite its polished appearance. Puzzled by the outcome, he questioned why she relied on such an inefficient method rather of using a more practical skill. Aunt Dite explained the heavy spell price. Souta reviewed another sample himself. The inspection disclosed raw iron ore, confirming that her judgment remained inaccurate. Wishing for better outcomes, Souta showed another rock to Seal and asked for her opinion. After checking it, she finished that anything really valuable would not have been left behind in the cave. That evaluation reduced the party's hopes, still so. They decided to proceed searching rather than giving up. Instead than depending on luck, Seal grabbed a pickaxe and began digging the cave walls herself. Her practice rapidly revealed rich deposits of copper and iron ore. Seal then disclosed that gnomes could detect ore by smell, making the search far simpler than anyone had pictured. Realizing how helpful Seal's ability was, Souta became excited by the prospect of seeking large amounts of ore and gaining a fortune. Without thinking, he roamed closer and keenly asked Seal to guide the party to richer deposits. His strong excitement immediately made her uneasy. Embarrassment rapidly overtook his excitement when he noticed her response. Concerned about upsetting her, he moved rear and tried to quiet himself. Elsewhere, Carolina and Dite exchanged nervous looks after observing the interaction from a distance. A shared determination shortly developed among them. Instead than standing apart, the two girls decided to start mining as well and prove their own usefulness. Seeing Carolina and Dite join the digging effort, Souta felt supported as the party worked together with renewed determination. While touring a cavern, Souta's party discovered a wall packed with valuable ore. Excitement grew as they recognized the tunnel held helpful resources keen to help. The elf girl volunteered to manage the digging, certainty displayed on her face as she readied to demonstrate her skill. Surprise traveled Souta's expression following noticing her claim. Still the rest seemed unsure whether she could match such expectations. Proudly, she disclosed that digging had once been her expertise in a game. With a tool and arm, she confidently started her demonstration. Rather of beautiful the barrier, her swing went wildly off course. Chaos trailed as the failed assault surprised everyone nearby. After the failed digging attempt, Aphrodite stood swinging the pickaxe with excitement. Her motions pulled attention, but the ore stayed untouched. Concerned by the situation, Seal moved forward and offered to take over prior any resources were broken. Elsewhere, Aphrodite looked disappointed as her duty was overtook. In comparison, Seal rapidly gained praise for her apparent expertise. Without wasting period, Seal approached the barrier and unleashed a precise blow. Fragments of rock flashed apart as her technique uncovered the concealed ore. Seconds later, a big mass separated from the wall and dropped onto the floor. Silence packed the cave as everybody stared at the remarkable result. Observing the mining process, Carolina indicated destroying the entire wall with spell to save time. Frustration became as the party struggled to labor efficiently to prevent further problems. Seal ordered Carolina and Aphrodite to stay rear and depart the mining to her. Multiple hours elapsed, and a large amount of iron and copper ore was successfully gathered. The hard labor finally produced valuable outcome. Noticing the news, Carolina grew thrilled about crafting weapons for the goblins. Souta greeted the thought and appreciated the resources they had assembled. Shortly afterward, Souta observed Aphrodite was absent. According to Seal, she had left off herself to collect ore by herself. While discussing Aphrodite's disappearance, the party abruptly heard a loud scream echo across the cave. Alarmed, they hurried towards the means of the noise deep within the tunnel. Aphrodite was found confined by odd rock monsters. Powerless to flee, she struggled as the creatures held her in spot. Arriving at the scene, Souta and the rest identified the monsters instantly. Concern spread through the party as they prepared to rescue Aphrodite from the surprising danger. A terrified girl named for Sota's help while a strange puppet-like monster held her in spot. Noticing the situation, he rapidly readied to capture orb and focused on the creature threatening his companion. Without uncertainty, the orb sailed ahead as he tried to separate the monster from its target and secure it safely. Seconds afterward, the capture worked. Relief spread across the party as Souta confirmed that one monster had been acquired. Prior anyone could relax, several puppet monsters abruptly emerged from the ground and surrounded the group from every direction. Carolina moved forward and unleashed Ice Spell, freezing the puppet monsters prior they could escape. Keen crystals spread across the battlefield, catching the creatures and stopping their abrupt attack. Souta watched as Carolina rapidly earned command of the situation. Using the opportunity, he tossed capture orbs towards the immobilized monsters and struck them one after another. Multiple hours elapsed as the party continued their hunt and carefully gathered more of the strange creatures. By the end of the search, Souta had captured 3 mad puppets and acquired 2 more later, leaving the group satisfied with their outcome. Depleted from the long expedition, the girls decided to relax while Souta planned to return once he arrived the inn after parting from the party. He glanced nearby the quiet mining area and considered using the empty space for an experiment. Rather than heading rear immediately, Souta triggered his monster. merging ability to test the creatures he had recently captured. Checking their information, he selected 2 mad puppets and readied them for evolution across fusion. A fresh monster soon emerged from the procedure. The evolved Dougador stood prior him, showing that combining identical monsters could create a tougher species. While checking the evolution system, Souta realized that merging 2 Dougadors might produce a still tougher monster. The merging succeeded, and a massive golem emerged prior him. Its overwhelming strength immediately exceeded each monster in his gathering. Supported by the outcome, Souta decided to gather more mad puppets and continue pursuing higher evolutions in the coming. Later, he reviewed the rewards from the digging expedition and calculated the earnings each person would receive. Walking across city, Souta considered on the day's work and concluded that collecting rarer metals would bring greater profits on the next expedition. With new earnings arranged, Souta walked across city and decided to complete a request before returning to the inn. While purchases with deity, Souta observed she seemed distracted and asked what was false. Remembering his promise, he bought her fresh clothing and praised her for helping during the cockatrice hunt. The present departed her feeling shy but happy shortly after. Deity showed off her fresh attire. Although Souta thought it glanced normal, he still found her naturally pretty, which made her still more flustered. Without notice, she grabbed his arm and rushed him along, eager to finish shopping and return to the mine. Their trip ended at the guild's official spell tool store, where a cheerful clerk welcomed them within. Within the spell tool shop, Souta explained that they wanted a cot as soft and fluffy as possible. The worker cheerfully led them to the bedding section. As they walked past multiple displays, the worker presented luxurious bedding made from rare angel cotton. Elsewhere, curious onlookers began observing the duo. Their attention made Souta abruptly realize how they emerged jointly, causing him to grow embarrassed. Soon, the worker presented the store's finest cot. Its ease seemed incredible, but the enormous price stunned Souta. After noticing the price, deity immediately refused the purchase and considered it far too expensive. Refusing the expensive cot, deity checked it more closely. Her expression rapidly altered as she observed something unusual about its materials. Instead than accepting the shop's claims, she pointed out that just a small portion of the cot was actually made from angel cotton, while the rest consisted of cheaper materials. Additional inspection disclosed comparable issues with the pillow and blanket. As an outcome, she finished that the whole product description was misleading. Noticing her explanation, Souta was amazed by her keen vision and newfound expertise. Just as they readied to depart, the uneasy clerk stopped them and offered a rare item that seemed better suited to the pair. Although Souta tried to deny the misunderstanding, the worker stayed persuaded that he and deity were a couple. Soon, the worker disclosed an unusual cot. Beneath its luxurious appearance, however, it had been cursed with risky particles that could transform an individual into a ravenous wolf. Rather of being alarmed, deity found the odd product surprisingly remarkable. Elsewhere, Souta instantly protested to the idea. Determined to proceed the discussion, deity silenced his complaints and focused on noticing the worker's explanation. As the negotiation continued, Souta struggled to understand her benefit while softly worrying that the purchase could lead to serious loan. While checking the cursed cot, Souta abruptly pulled deity closer. The surprising contact left her flustered, while the worker observed the scene with excitement. Seeing their reactions, the worker became still more persuaded that the two shared a special bond. After offering a regret, the worker politely saw them out of the store. Their stop finished without making a buy. Wishing to cheer her up, he asked whether she could wait a minute longer for the fluffy cot she wanted. As they continued traveling across city, concern grew in Souta's mind as he wondered if the failed purchase had disappointed her more than she showed. After leaving the store, deity remained focused on seeking a sturdy cot, while Souta quietly considered her unusual concern. Aphrodite cheerfully wandered through the mountain route, humming a strange tune while admiring herself close. The others observed the abrupt change, puzzled by her unusually vivid behavior. They wondered what had caused it. Interest became as Carolina requested about the odd song. Attention rapidly shifted to Aphrodite, whose expression indicated she was hiding anything important. After some teasing and uncertainty, the topic changed towards love. The goddess emerged unusually shy, hinting that latest incidents had affected her deeply. With a blush, Carolina confessed she had loved the same person for over 300 years, leaving everybody shocked by the revelation. Souta responded in disbelief after learning that Carolina had loved the similar person for over 300 seasons. He rapidly chose to shift the subject. A fresh topic came to mind as the party continued farther into the area. Instead than dwell on romance, Souta asked about seeking useful ore. Advice was required if he hoped to collect anything rare tai normal silver. Sile explained that richer deposits could be found farther within the mine, though the risk of getting lost increased with each step. While the rest considered the risk, a hidden creature appeared from the shadows. Its appearance indicated that seeking rare ore would not be their just challenge. Carolina disclosed that the bats alive in the cavern had already mapped the mine. Thanks to their scouting, the party earned a reliable manual to the deeper passages. Her planning amazed everybody. Shield openly praised Carol's efficiency, while Souta glanced startled by how thoroughly she had managed the task. Seconds afterward, the bats swarmed nearby Aphrodite. The messy scene caused suspicion, leading Souta to wonder whether Carolina was quietly controlling them. That belief showed false. As the party roamed ahead, strange puppet-like monsters began appearing, showing that other creatures inhabited the mine prior lengthy. The narrow tunnel opened into a huge cavern faced with the surprising area forward. While touring the cavern, Shield abruptly detected an overwhelming concentration of rare ore hidden behind a close wall. Excitement spread across the group as the possibility of beautiful fortune became real. Without uncertainty, Aphrodite keenly volunteered to smash through the obstacle. Hurrying ahead, she slammed into the wall with full energy. The impact achieved anything, leaving her sprawled on the floor with stiff arms and wounded pride. Carolina checked the ground and determined that the rock formation was far too sturdy for ordinary digging tools. Towering over the cavern floor, the huge creature grew the key to overcoming the seemingly unbreakable barrier. Souta commanded the golem to destroy the barrier blocking the uncommon ore. Relying on the monster's strength, the party stepped rear and watched the plan unfold. With one influential blow, the golem shattered the rock barrier. Debris scattered across the cavern, leaving everybody shocked by the outcome. Behind the broken barrier, a concealed staircase was disclosed. Instead than seeking ore immediately, the group uncovered a mysterious passage leading deeper underground. After climbing countless stairs, Souta and his companions observed the smell of ore rising tougher. At the finish of the staircase, an aged storage region came into view. Souta checked the spot and wondered about its reason. Rows of containers packed with platinum, gold, and silver ore stretched throughout the chamber. The finding disclosed a hidden wealth stockpile. Above the storage region, a massive underground chamber opened prior them. Amazement spread across the party as they took in the enormous area. Elsewhere, one companion checked the ore carefully. Her examination verified that the platinum ore was genuine, showing the treasure's immense worth. While checking the wealth room, the party realized the ore reserves were worth at least 400 million cal. The enormous worth left everybody shocked. Surprise instantly hit Souta as the figure sank in. His joy rapidly defeated him. Nearby him, the rest responded. Just as strongly, the size of the wealth felt almost impossible to accept amid the celebration. A heap of mortal bones took their attention. Worry overtook their excitement as they investigated the bones. After examining the scene, one companion indicated the chamber had once worked as a miner's storage room. Checking the bones and hidden treasure, the party finished that this place had been abandoned for hundreds of years. The evidence indicated a worker had quietly stored ore here. Based on the signs, they thought the worker had been stealing part of the treasure meant for the kingdom. A disaster must have blocked the entrance, catching the worker and burying the secret for generations. Abruptly, a loose rock moved above them. Worry grew as part of the ceiling began to split. Without notice, stones fell down from the wall. Surprised by the collapse, the party changed toward the noise and prepared for danger. Abruptly, a huge iron golem burst from the collapsing wall, towering above the party and blocking their escape route. While exploring an ancient ruin, Souta discovered a huge iron golem covered in dense layers of dirt. Without uncertainty, he ordered a capture ball towards the massive protector. The projectile struck its form and bounced off without any result. Uncertainty grew across the party as the capture failed. A closer look disclosed that the ball had just hit the dirt coating the golem. Gradually, Souta recognized the armor of dirt had built up over many seasons of sleep, shielding the true form beneath. Prior he could adjust his plan, the towering golem stepped forward and readied to assault. The iron golem hit initial, sending Souta crashing across the floor. Although he escaped grave injury, he rapidly realized the monster's strength was far better than expected. At that instant, Deity stepped forward and volunteered to manage the fight herself. Certainty packed her expression as she faced the towering protector. A thought from her arrival from heaven emerged in her mind. Unlike prior, her health had remained unchanged after arriving in this realm. Because of that opening, she finished that the iron golem stood no luck against her overwhelming power. Soon after, Deity challenged the huge directly while Souta observed from behind, wishing her confidence was justified. The iron golem started a weighty punch and sent Deity flying across the air. Souta observed in shock as the huge protector pressed its attack. Instead than withdraw, Deity named for Carol. Certainty stayed on her face as she readied a new strategy against the powerful enemy seconds. Afterward, Carolina emerged above the golem and landed on its head. Her arrival startled Souta, while Deity looked somewhat annoyed by the abrupt assistance. With a quick assault, Carolina stripped away the dense layer of mud covering the golem. The concealed metal form underneath was finally uncovered. This period it struck the actual golem, and the huge machine collapsed as the capture succeeded. After capturing the iron golem, Souta considered on the fight and realized his companions had played a crucial duty in securing victory. Later, the party celebrated their victory jointly. Near them, the newly seized iron golem stood softly as their latest companion. A cat-eared girl said, sorry, and explained that the ore he carried was too useful to price immediately. Surprise traveled his face as he misunderstood the situation, thinking the ore had minor worth. Rather, the guild struggled because releasing such a large amount of platinum could disrupt the whole market, causing alarm among the staff. After noticing the explanation, he recognized the shipment contained an extraordinary wealth. With the assessment yet underway, the guild requested more period to complete the purchase, and he patiently agreed to wait for the final decision. Leaving the guild, Souta informed his companions that the deal could not be finished instantly, and that all they could do was wait. Surprise grew among the party when they learned the process might take a whole week. Considering the massive quantity of ore in their possession, he questioned whether another merchant could offer a fairer price. A different worry then traveled his mind as he asked whether handing over all the ore to the guild had been the correct choice. With a quiet grin, Seal explained that the ore would be helpful for weapon crafting, even if it was not exactly the type they originally needed. Instead than returning to the inn immediately, Souta led the party beyond the city and asked them to stay a little longer for another task. Interest arose among his allies when he disclosed his intention to combine monsters. After learning the cause, they understood that releasing the monsters at the inn would be difficult, making the open region a superior choice. Using opening of the effective day, he decided to start by merging the mad puppets into golems. Shortly, an iron golem emerged from the merging. Seeing the outcome, Souta readied to combine it with another golem and wondered what tougher form might emerge next. The second merging produced an atomite golem, a far tougher monster whose immense size and power amazed everybody present. While the others admired the new golem, Seal rapidly identified the rare metal covering its form and reacted with disbelief. Realization struck her seconds later when she understood that the whole golem was made from useful atomite ore. Excitement overtook her surprise as she pictured the possibility of crafting weapons from a material she had long admired. Hearing her excitement, Souta asked whether the atomite could solve their material problem, and the answer immediately confirmed his victory. Carolina explained that extracting atomite would not be difficult because golems could quickly regenerate any broken pieces. Noticing that, Souta assigned the atomite golem to Seal and encouraged her to craft as many weapons as essential. Overwhelmed by gratitude, Seal hurried ahead and tightly hugged him without uncertainty. Joy packed her heart as she considered on the journey that had carried her to this opportunity, while Souta awkwardly accepted her thanks. Elsewhere, the rest observed the scene in silence, their unimpressed expressions revealing feelings that were far less enthusiastic than Seal's. Unexpectedly, the atomite golem fulfilled Seal's wish, leaving the party content as their adventure continued. Seeing her unusual attire, he assured her it suited her well and supported her to select any text she wanted. Noticing his sincere praise, Carolina grew defeated with happiness. The abrupt rush of feeling caused her to drop consciousness for a moment. After recovering, she rapidly said, sorry, and confessed that his kind words had affected her more than expected. Elsewhere, Souta considered on Carol's devotion and wondered whether her admiration for him sometimes went above simple gratitude. To explain his concern, he pictured how seriously she might take still an unreasonable request, leaving dual of them in an awkward situation. Trying to explain his worry, Souta gave a strong instance. To his shock, Carolina instantly acted on it and started lifting her skirt without uncertainty. Alarmed by her response, he rapidly halted her and maintained that she had misunderstood his meaning. Although puzzled by his response, Carolina quietly listened while trying to understand what had bothered him. Soon afterward, the duo reached at a large bookstore to continue gathering information and texts. Within, a cheerful employee greeted them kindly. As Souta asked about a worker from the spell tool shop, the worker immediately identified the name and confirmed the connection. The warm welcome seemed unusual, and he suspected there might be more behind the worker's friendly behavior. His doubts showed justified when the employee refused to show certain spell texts, claiming they were too valuable for ordinary customers. Prior Souta could answer, Carolina stepped forward and approached the clerk. Anger flashed throughout her confront as she challenged his disrespectful conduct, grabbing the terrified employee. Carolina delivered a fierce notice while Souta desperately tried to halt her. Just after settling down did she release the man and offer a regret. Still then, Carolina confessed she had nearly punished him for insulting her mentor. After the confrontation, the bookstore keeper angrily tossed Souta and Carolina out of the store. A brief walk later, they reached an additional bookstore. Although tinier than the earlier one, Carolina believed the quality of texts mattered more than the size of the building. Supported by her excitement, Souta let Carolina explore openly and asked her to point out anything interesting she discovered. Rows of shelves rapidly seized her notice. One book after another elapsed across her hands as she keenly searched for worthwhile material. Comparing the gathering to knowledge from her long lifetime, she concluded that the texts offered little worth for serious study. While observing Carolina browse the shelves, Souta abruptly sensed her feelings through their connection. Assuming she was disappointed with the bookstore's selection, he indicated leaving and seeking for better texts elsewhere. His decision took Carolina off protect. Embarrassed, she rapidly denied that the texts were the reason for her bothered thoughts. She explained that her people valued far more advanced knowledge, making most mortal texts unsuitable for grave study. Souta reacted with thanks and told her how much she had helped him. The sincere appreciation departed Carolina speechless as her face changed vivid red. Defeated by Souta's heartfelt appreciation, Carolina fainted once again, leaving him surprised as he rushed to support her. Souta recognized the guild reward would not arrive anytime shortly. With funds fleeing low, he started thinking about seeking another way to earn funds. While traveling across the guild, his attention shifted to a newly listed quest. Benefit rapidly overtook his earlier concern as he considered taking the job. Upon reading the information, he discovered an urgent task to overcome a wraith at St. Bell Cemetery. Rather of excitement, the quest board attracted concerns from close adventurers. Still so, the possibility of gaining 10 million coals stayed tempting. Wanting to understand the task's superior, Souta neared the receptionist and sought more information about the dangerous wraith quest. The clerk stated that the wraith was an extremely risky demon. Reports stated it could summon big quantity of undead. After noticing the details, Souta discovered that the monster had already emerged at St. Bell Cemetery. Afterward, single of his companions was stunned that he had ignored a quest worth 10 million coals. The massive payment appeared too useful to pass up. Instead than pursuing the funds, Souta chose caution. From guild payments would arrive shortly, he preferred secure jobs over risking everyone's lives. Noticing his concerns, a reliable companion volunteered to manage the wraith herself and asked him to leave the matter to her. The party explained that the wraith had abandoned the rules ordinarily trailed by demons. Because of that unusual conduct, they chose the danger could no longer be ignored. Listening cautiously, Souta understood their logic. Respecting his companion's resolve, he consented to aid her decision. A requirement shortly trailed his approval. Instead than letting her to face the danger alone, he insisted on coming the mission himself. Jointly, they reviewed a strategy for the fight. Certainty slowly grew as they considered using quantity and teamwork to enhance their chances. As night approached, the group headed out for St. Bell Cemetery. From the wraith just emerged at night. Party traveled at evening. One companion declined to stay behind, despite showing signs of fear. Elsewhere, another person noticed her uneasiness and teased her about being nervous nearby ghosts. The remark rapidly pulled everyone's notice. Instead than backing down, the goddess confidently displayed her certainty. Trust in her divine powers persuaded the party that she could manage any supernatural threat. Shortly afterwards, she pledged to protect the terrified companion during the mission. With morale lifted, the group continued towards the cemetery and prepared for the encounter ahead. 30 minutes later, Souta roamed across the graveyard at night, staying alert as the party advanced. Elsewhere, Cecile anxiously stayed near behind Aphrodite while the eerie surroundings made everyone uneasy. Abruptly, Souta moved forward. Seeing this, Aphrodite rapidly named out and rushed after him. Feeling left behind, she grabbed onto him and tried to keep speed. Resolved to remain by his edge, embarrassment traveled Souta's confront as he urged her to quiet down. Still so, Aphrodite remained near. While Cecile silently observed the awkward scene unfold, Aphrodite rapidly denied being afraid and insisted that hiding within the ball would just make the quest feel unfinished. Unlike her, Cecile honestly confessed her terror of being left alone and preferred staying near to the others. After noticing dual explanations, Souta realized each of them had their own cause for remaining outside. Without notice, a noise arrived from a close bush. The party stopped as one of Souta's companions sensed risk. Seconds later, a flaming spirit appeared from the shadows. Surprised by the abrupt appearance, Cecile held to Aphrodite while the monster revealed itself. Terror eventually took over as Cecile grabbed Aphrodite and declined to let go. Observing the chaos, Souta chose the two would probably end up within the ball again. At that instant, the flaming spirit hurried ahead. Single of Souta's companions instantly warned him of the incoming assault. Reacting without uncertainty, Souta called an atomite golem and ordered it to protect the party. The huge protector stepped between the group and the spirit. Surprisingly, the monster just floated nearby and repeated the same motion. After watching it cautiously, Souta concluded that the creature posed little danger. Rather, it emerged to be a wandering spirit moving on instinct alone. After examining the spirit's behavior, the party realized it just reacted to anyone who approached too closely. Wrath's earlier order was yet controlling its choices. A strategy rapidly developed in Sota's mind from the creature was not actively tracking them. Capturing it seemed potential. Still so, uncertainty crossed his feelings. Using a monster that already belonged to somebody else seemed questionable. Pushing apart his concerns, Souta decided there was just one way to know. With a quick motion, he tossed the capsule toward the hovering spirit. Seconds afterward, the capture worked. The spirit was drawn into the capsule, showing that absolute domination worked fully on controlled monsters as well. With the spirit seized, Souta seemed content. The party advanced confidently, having overcome the cemetery's initial barrier. Souta successfully seized a Hitodama and added it to his rising gathering of monsters. After obtaining the fourth spirit, he continued seeking herself while trying to locate the mysterious wraith leading the party. A voice abruptly echoed through the graveyard, causing him to halt and believe that the wraith had finally appeared. To his surprise, the keeper of the call was standing close, unnoticed until she revealed herself right in front of him. Rather of a terrifying monster, the wraith changed out to be a youthful girl named Yuko, whose overwhelming abilities far exceeded Sota's expectations. Facing Yuko's overwhelming power, Souta pondered capturing her prior she could launch an assault. Without wasting time, he tossed a capsule ball towards the hovering wraith and watched it fly straight at its target. Unexpectedly, the ball elapsed across her form as Yuko effortlessly moved through the air. Confusion overtook his certainty when he realized the wraith lacked a normal physical shape, making capture impossible. As the situation became clear, Souta understood he stood no chance in a direct battle while Yuko quietly watched his failed attempt. Recognizing he could not win, Souta tried to buy period by attempting to negotiate with the influential wraith. Ignoring his efforts, Yuko assembled a massive sphere of dark spell and readied a devastating attack. With death seemingly unavoidable, Souta agreed his fate and softly paused for the final blow. Prior the spell could reach him, a familiar call abruptly echoed across the battlefield. Seconds later, Carolina emerged between them and stopped the attack, shocking Souta as her overwhelming vampire abilities rivaled the wraith's strength. Souta checked Carolina's new shape and realized her power had risen far above anything he had witnessed before. Elsewhere, a familiar vampire emerged close. Memories of additional monsters' transformation made him believe Carolina had undergone a comparable evolution. As he reviewed the aftermath, ease overtook his concern. Although the protection was destroyed, the form stayed mostly unharmed. Abruptly, the head servant emerged in the cemetery. Her surprising presence left everybody shocked. Beneath the moonlit sky, uncertainty spread among the party. The servant appeared strangely attached to Carolina, creating Souta to wonder how they had become acquainted. Yuko instantly said sorry to Carolina and confessed her mistake. Despite the strain, Carolina remained quiet and acknowledged how much Yuko had altered. Without uncertainty, Yuko dropped to her ground and bent deeply. The surprising gesture startled Souta as Carolina softly watched, instead than accepting the regret for herself. Carolina redirected it toward her mentor. Her devotion and respect grew clear to everybody present. Elsewhere, the head servant was stunned by the scene. Noticing a demon bow prior people seemed completely unthinkable to her. At that instant, Carolina finished the dispute. A cold notice from her silenced the protests and carried the discussion to a halt. Recognizing his connection to Carolina, the head servant instantly panicked. Shame overwhelmed her, and she tossed herself to the floor to offer a sincere regret. While Souta fought to understand the circumstance, Carolina quietly explained that the maid had once been her colleague. After exhausting herself with repeated apologies, the servant stayed kneeling and quiet. Her strength weakened as embarrassment continued to press on her. Noticing her condition, Carolina stepped forward and requested permission to manage the issue personally. Content with the explanation, Souta agreed the demand. A sense of ease returned as Carolina gratefully took accountability for her previous coworker. After learning the full circumstance, Souta recognized the fight could have been avoided if Carolina had warned them beforehand. Close Carolina informed Yuko that Souta had previously given mercy. Ease grew across the maid's face as she learned the discipline had been reduced. Nevertheless, Carolina was not prepared to let the issue finish there. While her mentor had forgiven Yuko, she yet planned to settle the issue herself. A grave expression traveled Carolina's face as she shown Yuko's offenses. Terror rapidly returned when Yuko understood that judgment was about to start. Beneath the moonlit sky, Yuko desperately pleaded for leniency, while Carolina quietly ready to hold out her decision. Carolina chose on a harsh discipline for Yuko. Frightened by the punishment, Yuko could do anything but accept her fate elsewhere. Souta observed in uncertainty as the discipline continued. The odd situation made him realize demons manage mistakes very differently. Shortly, the discipline carried on while Yuko urgently begged for mercy. In the end, the conflict was solved, and quiet gradually returned to the party. After the monster danger was eliminated, the party walked through city while discussing the aftermath and the rewards they would receive. Interest then shifted towards Yuko, prompting benefit in how she had known Wraith before their journey. Instead than hiding the fact, Yuko revealed that she had once worked with him in the same workplace and managed part-time duties alone, noticing that explanation. The rest assumed she must have held a minor position because of her modest duty. However, Wraith reviewed her status and recognized their assumption was completely false, as Yuko possessed remarkable strength and was far from weak. Although Yuko's previous job seemed ordinary, Wraith suspected there was more to her background than she disclosed. Soon afterward, the party reached at the forest where they had seized monsters earlier. A thought formed as Wraith intended to merge one of the creatures prior returning to the inn. Elsewhere, a spirit ball was abruptly presented, shocking Shield and drawing everyone's attention to the strange item. Following checking its properties, Wraith discovered that the spirit ball could be fused with a wolf monster to create a tougher growth. Without uncertainty, the merging was carried out, resulting in a new fox-like beast whose enhanced abilities marked another successful step in monster breeding. The recently evolved monster instantly seized everyone's attention. Its little form and adorable appearance left the party impressed by the fusion result. While admiring the creature, they considered on how a normal wolf had transformed into anything unexpectedly charming. Yuko then stated that Kitsunebi was a rare magical beast associated with fire and often stored as a known among demons. Excitement rapidly spread as Carolina eagerly held the fluffy monster and grew attached to it after just a few seconds. Seeing her excitement, Wraith assigned the creature to her care, though another companion emerged less pleased by the decision. To everyone's surprise, the merging produced Ketamaro, a rare fluffy beast whose unusual shape concealed remarkable worth and potential. Souta and his companion discovered a soft monster created from an unusual merging, unlike the expected outcome. After checking it closely, he realized the creature was a rare evolution that emerged across a special combination. To his surprise, still a long-lived expert had never encountered such a monster prior, showing its extreme rarity. While examining its abilities, Souta found that it lacked helpful combat skills, though its defensive power remained remarkable. Elsewhere, the lady inspected its soft feathers and flexible form, sensing hidden potential that had yet to be revealed. Deity asked Souta to let the soft monster rest on its rear. Although puzzled by her demand, he agreed and gave the order. Without uncertainty, Dee leaped onto the monster and settled into its dense fur, treating it like a soft cushion. Seconds later, she relaxed completely while the others observed in surprise, unable to understand her abrupt excitement. The cause soon grew obvious. Dee declared the monster's fluffy stomach to be the perfect cot and claimed it surpassed any cot she had found in the human realm. Noticing how happy she was, Souta accepted her demand to care for the creature, gaining an enthusiastic hug in return. Evening fell over the city as Souta considered on the day's events. By mere chance, he had acquired exactly what Dee desired in his room. He observed Dee's strong attachment to Ketamaro and questioned why the fluffy monster fascinated her so much. Elsewhere, Souta enjoyed a peaceful relax, grateful that the quiet evening finally gave him time to recover his energy. Prior sleeping, he opened his status screen and reviewed the abilities he had earned from latest monster evolutions. Further inspection disclosed a rare and dangerous power named mental manipulation, gained through the unusual evolution earlier that day. After reading the description of mental manipulation, Souta realized the skill was difficult to use in fight and offered minor worth for defense. He was relaxing safely at the inn. An opportunity emerged to test the ability without any immediate danger. Chanced the mark selection menu, he considered multiple candidates and briefly focused on Dia. Reckless thought traveled his mind as he pictured what the skill might enable him to make her do. Embarrassment rapidly overtook interest. Despite the temptation, he refused the thought and chose not to use DE as an experiment. Unable to command a mortal target due to insufficient mental power, Souta searched for another choice and selected the Mad Mushroom. Hoping for a safer test, with the target chosen, he triggered mental manipulation and directed his feelings towards the monster. Curious to see whether the skill would succeed, Souta abruptly found himself within a mushroom monster's form, surrounded by a peaceful landscape. Following checking his requirement, He recalled using a mental manipulation skill that finding helped him understand he was presently within the monster ball. Interest pushed him to explore the area and search for the girls alive there. Shortly, he located DE quietly sleeping. Seeing her relaxing in glow sleepwear, he understood why she remained so relaxed inside the safe environment of the ball. A surprising idea traveled his mind, and he started considering how to take advantage of this unusual situation. Temptation got the superior of Souta as he roamed closer to D, persuaded he could enjoy the view without any consequences. Prior he could act further, Tamer abruptly struck and sent the mushroom form flying away from D. The surprising assault instantly ruined his plan. Elsewhere, DEI remained asleep, relaxing peacefully against Tamer without observing the disturbance nearby. Insight rapidly struck Souta. Tamer had seen across his intentions, and getting took left him feeling entirely defeated. As he recovered from the surprise, another girl emerged in the region. Her appearance shifted his attention. While DE continued relaxing under Tamer's guard, Carolina assembled the goblins and pushed them across a harsh practice session. From a range, Souta observed the odd scene unfold. Instead than showing sympathy, she declared that tougher effort would force them worthy servants under Sota's command. Soon the cause grew obvious. The goblins' ranks had risen quickly, thanks to Caro's relentless practice methods. The instant one goblin tried to relax, Carolina immediately stepped in and punished the lack of discipline with a quick kick. Observing her harsh approach, Souta felt dual surprised and impressed. Elsewhere, the goblins softly accepted their requesting instructor's authority. Inspired by Caro's practice, Souta selected the Goblin Knight as his target and readied to borrow its form. A Goblin Knight abruptly seemed his form become unusually heavy. Standing close, Carolina observed calmly as the result took hold. With an easy gesture, Carolina raised the strain carried by the Goblin Knights. Their movements dragged as the weight increased multiple times over. Soon, the practice area packed with struggling Goblin Knights. Each step became harder while Carolina watched the outcome of her skill. Instead than stopping, she approached single of them and continued the harsh practice. The Goblin Knight could hardly endure the rising strain. Seconds later, the depleted knight found himself pinned beneath Caro's boot, entirely overwhelmed by the situation. The Goblin Knight stayed confined beneath Caro's foot, yet his notice drifted elsewhere. Observing his strange gaze, Carolina grew flustered and questioned his conduct. Elsewhere, Souta looked across his available monsters and considered a way out of the embarrassing situation. A risky strategy shortly developed in his mind. Without wasting period, he readied to transfer his consciousness into another monster form. Flee appeared far more important than enduring another instant. After checking his choices, Souta chose an kitsune. The little fox-like monster emerged harmless and unlikely to draw suspicion. Kitsune sprinted off throughout the area. Hauling his hopes in that new form, Souta rushed off to continue his search for Seal. After leaving the practice grounds, Souta eventually reached at Seal's house. The sturdy wooden cabin instantly caught his attention and disclosed her remarkable craftsmanship. Interest guided the kitsune toward the doorway while touring the house. Souta grew still more amazed by what Seal had built on her own. Shortly, the doorway opened and Seal emerged. Identifying the kitsune, she kindly welcomed the small monster within. Rather of armor or labor clothing, Seal wore casual clothing after a long day of labor. Signs of fatigue covered her appearance as she kept her labor. Realizing the situation could become troublesome, he rushed towards the house to recover his composure. Comfortably relaxing in Seal's embrace, Souta grabbed the opportunity, enjoying the instant while hiding his true identity. Kotaro slept beside the elf girl on the cot while she observed how close the fox had become. Abruptly, the fox leaped onto her chest and started seeking attention, pushing her patience to its limit. Laughter fled as the playful creature continued its antics, leaving her powerless to understand its conduct. Elsewhere, Kotaro cheerfully buried its face into the soft cushion and enjoyed the ease without restraint. Defeated by the fox's affection, she held it tightly while recognizing that constant pampering had made Kotaro entirely spoiled. Kotaro observed Seal carefully and wondered why she regarded Kitsune so differently from other creatures. While resting on the cot, the fox noticed her unusual response and began suspecting there was a hidden edge to her personality. Certainty grew as Kotaro persuaded alone that its suspicions might be correct. Without notice, a knock arrived from beyond. Surprised by the interference, Seal panicked and attempted to compose herself. Seconds later, Carolina entered the chamber and found Seal moving strangely. Puzzled by the situation, she immediately asked whether anything had occurred. Carolina's abrupt stop forced Seal to conceal her embarrassment, though she struggled to act naturally. At the same period, Kotaro sensed a familiar appearance close and immediately became alert. Interest spread across the room as everybody tried to understand what the fox had detected. After thinking cautiously, Carolina explained that capable individuals could notice the presence of morale even when they remained hidden. A fresh chance appeared from the discussion. Instead than being confined, Souta might have entered the mysterious ball across an unknown monster tamer ability. After considering each possibility, Seal and Carolina agreed that asking Souta personally would reveal the fact. Elsewhere, Souta heard their discussion from within the ball and seemed relieved that his location remained undiscovered. Prior leaving, Carolina reminded Seal to be more careful and then went rear for the night. Once they were herself, Kotaro silently criticized Seal's unusual conduct, leaving her embarrassed and embarrassed. Elsewhere, Souta considered on the risk of his powers. Recognizing how readily they could be misused, he chose to employ them more carefully from now on. News of Sota's latest achievement grew across the city. People observed him with interest, wondering whether he was really an ordinary boy. Despite the notice, he stayed careful. Concerns remained in his mind as he remembered a failed prediction from earlier. Prior he could depart, an unfamiliar man approached and named his name. The stranger presented himself as Guard Westberg, a youthful hero from a respected family. Unexpected Souta. Shortly afterward, Guard started showing his noble lineage and heroic background. While listening, Souta became increasingly puzzled by the abrupt flood of details. After noticing Guard's explanation, Souta learned that the hero desired his help in a coming mission against the Demon Lord instead than showing everything in public. Guard invited him to a tavern that evening and pledged to share more details there. Once Guard departed, Souta reviewed the proposal with his allies. The thought of confronting the Demon Lord alarmed them because their strength was yet restricted. Unexpectedly, one companion seemed calmer than expected and focused on functional concerns rather of the danger alone. Following a brief discussion, the party agreed that moving rapidly would reduce coming risks and help them prepare for whatever came next. Carolina dismissed the notice and indicated that the supposed Demon Lord might not be actual. Although she confessed it was just a guess, she encouraged the party to gather information before making any judgment. After considering the circumstance, Souta chose to match Guard. He intended to hear first and withdraw if the danger showed too great that night. He reached at the tavern where Guard was already waiting with certainty. Without wasting period, Guard stated that strange rumors had appeared from the eastern region. For many powerful adventurers had already left to investigate. He desired Sota's help in dealing with the mysterious danger. Guard disclosed that the danger in the eastern region might be a demon king. The possibility took Souta off protect, as he had pictured a far different enemy. Shortly afterward, Guard announced a prize of 30 million kal. Noticing that amount instantly altered Sota's level of benefit. As the details grew clearer, he learned that defeating the target alone would earn the whole payment. The task abruptly appeared much more attractive. Motivated by dual the reason and the reward, Souta agreed to join the operation and shook hands with Guard later. That evening, he left the tavern while Guard observed from a range. Unseen by them, a little creature softly trailed behind. Instead than protecting the realm, he intended to use Souta as bait against the Demon King and abandon him if the mission became dangerous. Happy with his scheme, Guard glanced forward to the payment and recognition he expected to gain from the operation. Elsewhere, Carolina realized the fact behind Guard's choices. Angered by his selfish motives, she grew resolved to halt his plan and protect Souta. The next day, Souta and his companions went towards a mansion linked to their fresh mission. Prior long, the party reached at the enormous estate. Its abandoned look and quiet setting made the spot feel unsettling. Concern grew throughout the group. Rumors stated a demon lord was hiding within, and some feared the danger waiting above the entrance. Despite their worries, Souta stayed composed. He comforted the rest while considering whether a real demon lord could really be there. After sensing the region, one companion observed the demon lord's spell was absent. With certainty returning, the party readied to investigate the mansion further. Souta neared the mansion with certainty, relying Carol's strength. Still so, he stayed careful and prepared for anything hidden within. After stepping the building, the party found a grand room. Dust covered the inside, yet the mansion's elegance stayed clear. An abrupt finding took Carol's attention. Towering bookshelves packed with above-quality text stretched across the room, drawing her focus immediately. Joy overtook her previously worries. Encircled by countless texts, she pictured spending endless hours reading without ever growing bored. Observing her response, Souta realized the library was exactly what Carolina had always desired. Their decayed look and foul smell instantly disclosed that they were undead monsters. Disgusted by the beings, one companion maintained they could not be allowed within the storage ball. Souta rapidly consented to eliminate them rather. Without delay, he called forth Kitsunebi. The fox spirit rushed ahead and unleashed a fierce assault that engulfed the ghouls in flames. Seconds later, the the fight finished. The undead monsters were eased to cinders, leaving the hallway secure once again. After confirming the region was clear, the party advanced farther into the mansion. A blocked door expected them, and above it rested the demon they had come to find. Clearing the mansion, Souta entered additional chamber and unexpectedly found a young girl changing clothing. Shock rapidly changed into uncertainty. Surprised by his appearance, the girl responded immediately while the surprising encounter created an awkward situation. Seconds afterward, Duel regained their composure. Identifying each other, they recognized this encounter was not a coincidence. As the rest observed curiously, the girl stated her connection to the mansion. With many questions yet unanswered, the party ready to hear her story. Following demon hunters started pursuing her, she discovered an abandoned mansion and changed it into her base. Later, she disclosed that she often visited a cemetery to collect corpses and create fresh minions. Frustration packed her expression as she confessed that far more adventurers and demon hunters had started attacking her than she expected. Elsewhere, the party learned that the state had placed a big bounty on demon heads, attracting hunters from many places. Worry then moved to the people who had returned to the mansion. Fortunately, those visitors returned securely, leaving the circumstance unchanged for the instant. Souta discovered that the visitors who entered the mansion never returned because Yuyuko terrified them off with her undead servants. Abruptly, a demon hunter called Guard emerged. Believing Yuyuko was a simple mark, he disclosed that he had used Souta as bait to lure the demon into the open seconds. Later, more hunters entered the mansion and encircled the party. Stating justice was on their edge, they ready to eliminate Yuyuko and collect the reward. Noticing their dramatic statement, Souta instantly felt that the hunters were far from reliable. As the strain rose, he considered on the notice signs he had ignored and regretted being drawn into the hunter's scheme. Realizing the danger, Souta rapidly halted her and searched for another way to manage the situation. Rather of backing down, he called a goblin knight to confront the hunters. Guard ridiculed the small warrior and regarded it as a simple opponent. To everybody's surprise, more goblin knights emerged single after another. A little energy soon formed in front of Souta, blocking the hunter's route. Shock grew across the room as the hunters learned that controlling so many monsters at once was far above normal abilities. Although rattled, Guard supported his companions to stand their ground, persuaded that a party of goblins could never defeat them. Souta observed as his goblin force rushed forward, equipped with enhanced gear and strengthened across harsh practice. The small warriors overwhelmed the hunters' front line. Across the room, defeated hunters collapsed single after additional. Their certainty faded as they recognized these goblins were far tougher than ordinary monsters. Prior alarm could grow further. An older hunter stepped forward. Resolved to defend his companions, he assumed control and confronted the demon's forces himself. Seconds later, the veteran warrior cut across multiple goblins with Reduce. His surprising strength stunned Duel the hunters and Souta. After beating multiple enemies, Guard relied on his powerful splenoid daemon and thought victory was certain. Elsewhere, Souta evaluated the situation and emitted a werewolf to challenge Guard's forces. Without uncertainty, the werewolf rushed ahead and clashed directly with the goblin knight in a fierce exchange. As the fight continued, Guard realized the monster was tougher than expected and began to drop confidence. Then Souta disclosed that many more monsters remained within his capture ball, leaving Guard stunned and unsure of his next move. Guard tried to pull rear after realizing the fight was shifting against him. Close, his allies observed in alarm as the werewolf kept the pressure on. Souta declined to let the enemy escape and summoned a mad mushroom to halt their withdrawal soon. The mushroom emitted a strange powder that spread throughout the room and affected everybody close. Prior long, the victims lacked command of themselves. Confusion packed the room as the powder caused surprising feelings and chaotic behavior. Unable to understand what was happening, Guard desperately commanded his demon to halt the disorder while the situation continued to spiral out of command. Beneath the mushroom's influence, one of Guard's men abruptly confessed his admiration and entirely lost his composure. Elsewhere, another affected soldier hurried toward Guard, unable to command the strange feelings caused by the powder. Observing the chaos unfold, Souta quietly revealed that the mad mushroom had been summoned to punish the troublesome party. Soon after, a mysterious girl emerged and praised the result, seeking the entire situation highly entertaining. Before the conversation could continue, Yuyuko stepped in and scolded the girl for her disrespectful behavior, rapidly restoring order nearby Souta. After the event, the party reviewed the consequences. Rumors about a demon alive in the mansion had already grew, and tougher hunters would likely arrive soon. Instead than worrying about the mansion alone, Yuyuko stated that demons were destined to be hunted wherever they went. Noticing her words, Souta observed that Yuyuko seemed different from when they first met and softly reflected on her situation. A fresh thought then arrived to him. He indicated seeking a bigger and safer place where demons could live without fear. Interested by the proposal, the rest listened closely as Souta asked to be given the location, wishing to put his plan into action. Abruptly, the little demon girl was drawn towards Sota's capture ball before she could understand what was happening. Elsewhere, Souta disclosed that his plan was to give Yuliko and the other demons a safe spot to live without fear. Seconds afterward, the capture worked. The tiny wraith ended up within the ball, leaving everybody surprised while Souta proudly earned a new companion. A week later, Souta bought the grand mansion where Yukiko once lived, giving his party a spacious, fresh home. Because rumors of a demon lord spread across the area, property values collapsed, letting him to buy the estate for just a fraction of its true worth. Nearly all of his digging income were spent on the purchase, yet the exchange seemed worthwhile. After settling the handle, he proudly considered on completing Carol's final wish and fulfilling each promise he had made. Prior he could relax. The mansion's cleaning labor demanded attention, and his companions rapidly pulled him into helping. Across the mansion, everybody worked jointly on a massive cleaning practice. Still, the goddess and the demon joined the job, leaving Souta puzzled by the unusual scene. While dust and dirt disappeared from the halls, the party softly continued their labor. A brief exchange took notice, but anything more came of it. Hers afterward, the mansion eventually regained its previous beauty. Ease spread across the party as they admired the spotless interior. After assigning private rooms and returning everyone's belongings, Souta seemed content with the fresh arrangement, simply as he expected a quiet relax. An abrupt feeling made him realize the day was not over yet. Night finally reached, and Souta glanced forward to a peaceful relax in the mansion. Rather, multiple girls ended up sharing his cot. Deep in their slumber, the girls automatically roamed closer to him. Their relaxed expressions showed they seemed entirely at reduce in their new home beyond. The mansion remained quiet beneath the evening sky. Although everybody now had private rooms, Souta realized his daily life had hardly altered. Daybreak arrived with surprising urgency. Prior he could fully wake up, rushed footsteps echoed across the halls. Seconds afterward, alarming news shattered the quiet atmosphere. Carolina had been seized by an intruder, causing Souta into action previously again. The disturbing news made Souta shocked. Without wasting period, he trailed the goddess farther into the mansion to investigate Carol's disappearance. Stranger stated that she had returned seeking details about a demon rumored to live in the northern settlement. From nearby, another resident noticed the scene and hurried closer, confused by the surprising confrontation happening within the mansion. As the circumstance grew obvious, the visitor could not hide her disbelief. A mortal and a demon were alive jointly under the same roof. Quiet briefly packed the room. Observing the exchange, the youthful girl fought to understand what would happen next. A strange lady reached at the mansion, identifying a familiar face. Souta realized the long-absent mentor had finally returned. After returning, Shiel praised Souta for guarding her during the incident in St. Bell City and explained what had occurred. Noticing the details, Souta discovered that the demon Carolina had also assisted Shiel when she was seized by the Merchant Guild. Elsewhere, Shiel defended Carolina's character and complimented the guild's bravery despite its bad reputation. Although relieved by her reasonable behavior, Souta observed anything troubling and felt uneasy. Without notice, Shiel stepped forward and struck Carolina, shifting the calm discussion into an abrupt confrontation. Shiel refused Carolina's choices and warned Souta that demons could not be reliable. From her view, no demon deserved to be considered good. Moving ahead, she defended herself and argued that Seal's judgment was clouded by private hatred. Instead than backing down, Seal started another assault. Carolina easily avoided the blow and began using the battle seriously. Dark wings grew from Carolina's rear as she entered her vampire shape. The abrupt transformation took Shiel and the rest off guard seconds afterward. She delivered a finishing strike, defeated and wounded. Shiel collapsed while Carolina quietly confessed she had been holding rear her true strength. After the battle finished, Souta asked why Seal hated demons so low. A painful thought instantly returned in her mind. Rear when she was an explorer in St. Bell City, Seal traveled with 5 allies during single task. They encountered Rumel, a powerful demon serving the Demon King's force. Despite their progress, the party stood no luck against the overwhelming enemy. Single by single, her comrades fell prior her eyes. From that tragedy, Seal dedicated her safety to tracking demons. Resolved to avenge her friends, she promised to wipe them out entirely. Listening to the story, Souta finally understood the means of her hatred while the others softly considered on her loss. Afterward, Seal said sorry to the elf girl and confessed that she had left St. Bell City without saying goodbye because she feared losing her resolve. In reply, The girl showed comfort that Seal had endured. A warm grin finally emerged on Seal's face as the strain faded. Shortly after, Seal explained the cause for her stop. Reports about a demon active in St. Bell City and a dubious casino tied to the Merchant Guild had attracted her notice. Regrettably, her informant within the mansion had halted responding, leaving the investigation at a dead end. Noticing this, Souta instantly offered his group's help, drawing Seal completely by surprise. Despite Seal's concerns, Souta declined to overlook the risk, relying Carolina's strength. He stayed resolved to get involved. Shortly afterward, Souta proposed a save task. Confident in his companions, he readied to save the absent ally and uncover the fact behind the demons. Souta reached at the casino alone, wishing to escape attention while investigating the place. Unexpectedly, DI trailed him and insisted on staying close because she feared the dangers within. Elsewhere, townspeople discussed the casino's abrupt victory and the disappearance of the former Merchant Guild leader. Noticing those rumors, Souta connected them to past events and began questioning what had really occurred. With rising certainty, he approached the casino entrance and ready to uncover the crimes hidden behind its prosperous image. Upon stepping the casino, Souta was shocked by the luxurious room and the many bunny girls serving guests. Shortly after, a well-dressed man approached and presented the casino while showing its unusual system. To Souta's surprise, the female workers were regarded as prizes that gamblers could obtain across the casino's games. The man then disclosed himself as Roth, the vice chief of the Merchant Guild and the casino's present owner. Noticing the details, Souta recognized the business had changed people into rewards, using their exploitation to attract gamblers and increase profits. After encounter Roth, Souta observed anything unusual. His assessment showed just his age, leading him to believe that Roth was actually a demon in disguise. Elsewhere, Dia reminded him that they needed to collect more information prior making a move against their enemy. A different thought soon traveled Souta's mind as he questioned whether Dee had simply returned along to enjoy the casino. Seconds afterward, she indirectly verified his suspicion, leaving him speechless. Multiple hours elapsed within the casino. By the end of it, Souta sat depleted and disappointed after losing a big amount of funds. Hers of betting made Souta puzzled. Although he had been winning previously, his chance abruptly disappeared during the final rounds. Prior long, Dee hurried over in tears and admitted that she had lost her funds as well. Instead than getting angry, Souta comforted her and gestured out that their losses were still small measured to the fortune they carried. Guilt kept a press on Dee as she confessed that she had spent all the savings she carried into the casino. That revelation departed Souta entirely shocked. Seconds later, the duo recognized they had wasted nearly everything and were now broke. Souta carried Dee to a mansion and approached her about losing all their gambling funds. Embarrassed, she feared he had carried her there for discipline, but he disclosed he wanted to recover the large amount they had lost. Rather of blaming bad chance, Souta questioned why their winnings stored shrinking despite repeated victories. A possibility abruptly arrived to thoughts. Suspicion grew as he considered that the staff might be quietly using their funds. Dei recalled noticing about guests being regarded unfairly and forced to cover losses through a harsh system. Resolved to uncover the fact, Souta asked Dei to monitor his condition while he readied to expose the fraud. After forming a plan, Souta chose to investigate the store from the beyond. To accomplish that, he required Kitsunebi, a little and nimble monster. Using his mind command power, he readied to transfer his consciousness into the monster. Dei heard in surprise as he stated the way. Without notice, Souta leaned near to Dee while concentrating on the skill. The abrupt action left her entirely surprised. Kitsunebi, Souta slipped off to collect proof. Elsewhere, multiple employees mocked a wealthy blonde woman and laughed behind her rear. Noticing their conversation, he realized the workers glanced down on guests and assumed nobody would notice their dishonest conduct. While searching the building, Souta overheard employees bragging that guests never observed their pass, switching tricks powered by illusion spell concealed close. Kitsunebi listened as another worker reached. Their conversation verified that dark spell was being employed to deceive customers. One employee proudly confessed using a huge amount of funds from her through the scheme. The overseer instantly lost his composure. Angry at the greed and carelessness, he hit the worker and demanded an answer. A grimmer reality appeared. Guests who could not settle their debts were forced into servitude, and the blonde lady had already been marked as their next victim. The supervisor continued berating his subordinate, blaming him for forfeiting possible profits and regarding him as worthless. After the outburst, he coldly declared that dealing with people was anything but a strain and left the room. Observing from hiding, Souta became angry. The casino's corruption obviously arrived from the supervisor, whose influence had twisted everybody beneath him. Multiple days later, Carolina considered on a familiar presence she had sensed prior, finally understanding its source. After selling property and gathering funds, they readied for their next act while discussing the demon whose presence could no longer be detected. Rear at the casino, Souta risked all his remaining funds, resolved to recover his losses and expose the fraud. At a packed gambling room, Souta pulled everyone's attention after placing an enormous wager. Elsewhere, the dealer anxiously verified the rules one last time across the table. Souta stayed quiet and committed to seeing the gamble across. After gaining permission, he claimed his chair and readied for the match. The mood became strained as each side prepared themselves. While the dealer shuffled the cards, Souta observed unusual certainty in his enemy. Doubt remained, but he remained focused. His cards were shown to be surprisingly poor. Still so, he cautiously considered his next act instead of panicking. Despite drawing another bad arm, Souta remained composed and chose to exchange his cards. Certainty stayed on the dealer's edge as the game continued. At that instant, Carolina employed her illusion spell to support him. Weak cards slowly emerged tougher, transforming the situation in Souta's favor. Shock spread across the room as spectators realized the unbelievable outcome and the enormous payment attached to it. Shortly after, Souta figured out that his enemy had been manipulating probability with spell. Accusations rapidly trailed, but no proof could be found while the dealer demanded an explanation. Souta quietly agreed his victory as confusion packed the room. The gambling room fell silent following Souta's win. While one employee desperately said, "Sorry" to his superior, the manager observed the result with a cold expression. Shortly afterward, the manager invited Souta to a private chamber to discuss the huge prize funds. Upon stepping, Souta observed several guards already waiting within. The manager quietly greeted him, but the atmosphere seemed increasingly hostile. Instead than handing over the winnings, the manager disclosed his actual intentions. A hidden weapon emerged as he roamed stronger under the guise of negotiation. Without notice, the manager started an assault. Surprise flashed across Souta's face as the peaceful encounter immediately changed into a life-threatening confrontation. Souta instantly recognized the invitation had become a setup. Confronting the manager, he requested an answer while feeling the aggression around him. The manager abandoned every disguise and exposed his greed. Encircled by armed guards, he ordered Souta to arm over each coin he had won. Noticing the danger clearly, he arrived for one of his monster capsules and ready to counterattack. In an instant, a party of goblin knights emerged across the chamber. The abrupt summon took the guards completely off guard and disrupted their attack. Metal collided as the creatures rushed ahead. Alarm overtook certainty on the manager's face when he realized he was hopelessly outnumbered. After the guards fell, the casino manager disclosed his actual vampire shape, exposing the power he had concealed all along.